Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy today's episode.
Along with the departure of the two old men from the Bai clan, Duan Ling Tian and Han Shui Nai had become the center of attention in the entire area. But the attention of the surrounding people was quickly moved away because the members of the Tang clan had arrived. It's the Tang clan's Grand Elder. The Tang clan's Grand Elder is an existence that has stepped into the 8th level of the Void Initiation stage. In the Tang clan, his strength is only inferior to the Tang clan's ancestor. I never expected that the Tang clan's Grand Elder would personally arrive to preside over the auction this afternoon. The surrounding crowd of spectators were in an uproar, whereas Duan Ling Tian's gaze had descended onto the 5 people that flew over. Amongst these 5 people, the one in the lead was a gray-haired old man with a pair of muddled eyes that occasionally flashed with a dazzling bright light. From afar, the old man looked like an ordinary old man, yet Duan Ling Tian's stretched-out spiritual force told him that this old man was in existence at the 8th level of the Void Initiation stage. He's the Tang clan's Grand Elder? Duan Ling Tian heard the surrounding discussions, and he easily guessed the old man's identity. After all, Duan Ling Tian had arrived at the Eastern Mulberry Empire for a period of time, so he had a certain level of understanding towards the Eastern Mulberry Empire's Tang clan. The Tang clan was the strongest power in the Eastern Mulberry Empire besides the imperial family, and a clan being able to be the strongest in an empire was undoubtedly extremely rare. Supposedly, there were 5 existences at the 7th level of the Void Initiation stage or above in the Tang clan, and the strongest was existence at the 9th level of the Void Initiation stage. That day, when Duan Ling Tian had just obtained an understanding of the Tang clan's strength, he'd once sighed with emotion. The Tang clan's strength is probably not much inferior to the imperial family of Eastern Mulberry Empire. Everyone. Meanwhile, the 5 people of the Tang clan that were led by the Grand Elder descended onto the high platform, and the Tang clan's Grand Elder looked around the surroundings before speaking suddenly. Instantly, the scene quieted down and became deathly silent. Our Tang clan will be auctioning a demon beast here today, a Void Initiation stage demon beast. The Tang clan's Grand Elder was obviously not a person that liked to dally, and he went straight to the point. Void Initiation stage demon beast? Instantly, no matter was it the surrounding crowd of spectators on the ground or in the sky, they all burst into an uproar. After all, once a demon beast broke through to the Void Initiation stage, its intelligence was already no different than a human. Most importantly, a Void Initiation stage demon beast normally had its own dignity. It would rather die than live on its knees. Even if it was a human that possessed a strength that surpassed the Void Initiation stage demon beast, it was practically impossible to subdue it. It was precisely because of this that the value of a Void Initiation stage demon beast was extremely high in the world of humans. Now, the Tang clan wanted to auction off a Void Initiation stage demon beast. A Void Initiation stage demon beast that could be taken out to be auctioned by the Tang clan was undoubtedly not the type of demon beast that would rather die than submit. This type of demon beast was something that anyone wanted, especially those people who were in powers that possessed limited amounts of Void Initiation stage experts. Their faces flushed red and were bursting with energy as they were prepared to bid for the Void Initiation stage demon beast. Void Initiation stage demon beast. Duan Ling Tian's brows raise. This Tang clan has some ability. They're actually able to capture a Void Initiation stage demon beast to auction away. Grand Elder Tang, may I know what level of the Void Initiation stage is the demon beast your Tang clan is auctioning away? In next to no time, someone couldn't refrain from asking. First level of the Void Initiation stage. The Tang clan's Grand Elder replied indifferently. Although it was only at the first level of the Void Initiation stage, it didn't destroy the fervor in the hearts of the surrounding people as everyone looked with anticipation at the Tang clan's Grand Elder. Grand Elder Tang, where's that demon beast? Yeah, you have to let us take a look, right? Otherwise, how would we bid? Exactly. The surrounding crowd of spectators were clamorous. Presently, the people that spoke were mostly the martial artists with a cultivation at the void prying stage or above and stood in the sky. These people mostly had extraordinary backgrounds and abundant wealth. Everyone, please calm down. My Tang clan disciples will bring over the demon beast right away. The Tang clan's grand elder raised his hand to stop the clamorous noise from the surroundings. Needless to say, this Tang clan's grand elder had a certain degree of influence, and as soon as he finished speaking, the scene instant became quiet once again. I thought it would be some treasure. So it turns out that it's only a first-level void initiation stage demon beast. Han Xuanai's brows knit and spoke with slight disappointment. Big brother Ling Tian, let's go. I'm completely uninterested towards void initiation stage demon beasts, said Han Xuanai to Duan Ling Tian. Since we've already come, let's see what demon beast this Tang clan wants to auction off. I'm extremely curious as well. What sort of void initiation stage demon beast did this Tang clan subdue? Duan Ling Tian suggested. All right, then I'll accompany big brother Duan Ling Tian in watching what happens. Han Xuanai lightly smiled as she nodded and agreed. Not long after, a wave of howls of the wind sounded out from the distance. Subsequently, a middle-aged man that carried something that was covered in red cloth soared over in the sky and directly flashed towards the square in the center. After a short moment, he descended onto the high platform. Grand Elder. Subsequently, the middle-aged man respectfully and reverently passed over the thing that was covered in red cloth to the Grand Elder. The Grand Elder nodded before raising his hand and directly lifting up the red cloth. A specially made cage appeared in the hands of the Tang clan's Grand Elder. Squeak, squeak. Right at this moment, a wave of low cries sounded out from within the cage. A little gold mouse that was covered in fluffy fur lay powerlessly in the cage in a sorry state, and the jade-green eyes of the little gold mouse was looking up into the sky of the center square. The little gold mouse's eyes were filled with excitement, whereas, at this moment, Duan Ling Tian had become completely stunned as he stared blankly at the little gold mouse in the cage, and he muttered slightly stiffly, little gold. Everyone. Meanwhile, the Tang clan's Grand Elder spoke slowly. This little gold mouse is the void initiation stage demon beast that my Tang clan is auctioning off. According to my deduction, it ought to be a variant gold fur mouse. Although it's only a first-level void initiation stage demon beast, it has already comprehended second-level lightning concept. As the Tang clan's Grand Elder finished speaking, his voice became forceful. Comprehended second-level lightning concept at the first level of the void initiation stage. Instantly, the gazes of the surrounding crowd of spectators lit up. The comprehension ability of such a demon beast could be said to be shocking. Grand Elder Tang, its condition doesn't seem well to me. Could it be that your Tang clan has used some medicine on it? Suddenly, a person with a discerning gaze asked. Exactly, the Grand Elder nodded. Our Tang clan has indeed given it origin block powder. But this demon beast's will to live is extremely strong, and it's completely possible to control it using the origin block powder and make it serve all of you. When he spoke up to here, the Tang clan's Grand Elder was slightly complacent. The origin block powder is the secret recipe of my Tang clan. No matter who bid and wins this demon beast today, our Tang clan will unconditionally supply 100 years' worth of origin block powder to him. As soon as the Tang clan's Grand Elder finished speaking, the scene was completely silent, and only waves of heavy breathing remained. 100 years. Right at this moment, a sneer broke the silent atmosphere of the scene. Do you really think your Tang clan can still be passed down for 100 years? The enraged and fierce voice continued to sound out, and it caused everyone from the Tang clan, including the Grand Elder, to go grim. The gazes of everyone shot towards the source of the voice. At that place, a violet-clothed young man stood there. It's him. In next to no time, someone had recognized Duan Ling Tian. What does he want to do? Coldness arose in the hearts of many people. Although this violet-clothed young man had never made a move since the beginning, a terrifying expert was concealed behind the young girl by his side. That expert hadn't made an appeared yet, was able to kill a 7th-level void initiation stage expert. That level of ability had already exceeded the scope of the void initiation stage. Kid, you actually dare be disrespectful to my Tang clan. You deserve death. Right at this moment, the middle-aged man that stood by the Grand Elder's side shouted out explosively, and he transformed into a flowing light that flashed directly towards Duan Ling Tian. For a time, Two ancient mammoth silhouettes appeared in the sky above the middle-aged man. Obviously, this was a first-level void initiation stage martial artist. Bang! The middle-aged man slapped out with his palm, his raging origin energy condensed to transform into a palm print that was accompanied by strands of blue-colored energy as it enveloped towards Duan Ling Tian. In the sky, another ancient horned dragon silhouettes appeared. First-level water concept. When faced with the middle-aged man's greatly formidable palm strike, Duan Ling Tian revealed an expression of disdain, and he didn't even have the intention to dodge. In the next moment, Duan Ling Tian raised his hand, and his raging origin energy converged on his index finger. Tempest Point. Duan Ling Tian fiercely pointed out. His first-level wind concept and advanced lightning force moved along with his origin energy point force to transform into the Tempest Point that pierced towards the middle-aged man's palm print. In the sky, 3 ancient horned dragon silhouettes were escorted by 2,000 ancient mammoth silhouettes as they dashed out. Swish! The terrifying Tempest Point easily shattered the middle-aged man's palm print and didn't lose momentum in the slightest before piercing through the middle-aged man's chest. The middle-aged man's pupils sprang wide open, and he raised his hand to point at Duan Ling Tian and wanted to say something, yet he was unable to continue speaking in the end. Bang! The middle-aged man shook before fiercely plunging to the ground while accompanied by spraying blood that covered the sky, and he was completely devoid of any signs of life. Dead. Meanwhile, the pupils of the surrounding crowd of spectators constricted, and they looked at the violet-clothed young man in the sky with astonished expressions. What a terrifying young man. His age looks to be around 25 at most, but his cultivation has already stepped into the first level of the void initiation stage. Moreover, he has comprehended first-level wind concept and advanced lightning force. Where exactly did such a monstrous genius martial artist come from? With his strength, he probably has the qualifications to participate in the Dynasty Martial competition that's being held in another 8 months, right? None of the experts of the younger generation of our Eastern Mulberry Empire are able to compare to him. The surrounding crowd of spectators sighed with emotion as they were all filled with admiration towards Duan Ling Tian's natural talent and comprehension ability. Kid, right at this moment, the low and oppressive voice of the Tang clan's Grand Elder sounded out slowly. First you disrespected my Tang clan. Now you killed my Tang clan's disciple. Who exactly are you? Exactly what enmity does my Tang clan have with you? As he finished speaking, the Grand Elder's eyes were no longer muddy and were replaced with frightful killing intent. He adopted a stance as if he would annihilate Duan Ling Tian if Duan Ling Tian was unable to give him a reason. What enmity? Duan Ling Tian sneered, and then his gaze descended onto the small cage in the hands of the Grand Elder. Your Tang clan actually dares torture Little Gold like this. That's Little Gold. Duan Ling Tian hadn't finished speaking when he was interrupted by the nearby Han Xuanai. Han Xuanai was curious earlier about why her big brother Ling Tian would suddenly lose his composure like this. Now, she finally understood. So it turned out that the little gold mouse the Tang clan had confined within the small cage was Little Gold. It really is a jade-eyed heavenly mouse. I didn't really pay attention earlier. Han Xuanai seriously sized up the little gold mouse for the first time, and she saw through the little gold mouse's origins. Hiss hiss, meanwhile, 2 little heads stuck out from beneath Duan Ling Tian's sleeve. It was Little Black and Little White, and they had slightly complicated gazes now as they sized up the little gold mouse within the cage. Little Gold. The Grand Elder was stunned when he heard Duan Ling Tian, and he was unable to react to the meaning behind these words for a time. Right at this moment, Han Xuanai made a move. Han Xuanai swept out with her sleep, causing a violent wind that was icy cold to the extreme to instantly sweep out horizontally, and it enveloped towards the members of the Tang clan. Instantly, all 5 of the Tang clan members, including the Grand Elder, transformed into 5 ice sculptures, and only the cage in the hands of the Grand Elder wasn't sealed with ice. Squeak, squeak. But the little gold mouse within the cage was still frozen to the point her entire body shivered. Little Gold. Duan Ling Tian flashed out to descend onto the high platform and seize the small cage. Swish. His grade 4 spirit sword flashed out to easily slash apart the cage. Little Gold, are you alright? Duan Ling Tian took the little gold mouse out from the cage and held her in his hand, and then he sized her up with a concerned expression. Squeak, squeak. The little gold mouse cried out twice before sending a voice transmission into Duan Ling Tian's ears. Big brother Ling Tian. It hurts. It hurts so much. It'll be fine. You've only been affected by the Tang clan's origin block powder. I'll take you to the Tang clan right now to make them hand over the antidote. Duan Ling Tian's eyes went cold. Under his extreme rage, Duan Ling Tian even forgot that he himself was able to refine the spirit cleansing pill that was able to cure a myriad of poisons. With the grade 3 pill fire Duan Ling Tian mastered after breaking through to the void initiation stage, he only needed to find the materials before he would be entirely capable of refining a grade 3 spirit cleansing pill. Besides some extremely rare toxic poisons in Cloud Continent, the grade 3 spirit cleansing pill was able to easily cure any other poison. At the same time that Duan Ling Tian spoke with the little gold mouse, he raised his fist to swing it out abruptly, and his vast origin energy swept out to envelop all the 5 Tang clan members, including the Grand Elder that had been transformed into ice sculptures. Bang, bang, bang. 5 loud bangs sounded out at practically the same instant. In the next moment, the 5 ice sculptures transformed into shattered ice that covered the sky, and then it plunged to the ground. All 5 of the Tang clan members were dead. Killing without spilling a drop of blood was nothing more than this. Xuanai, make a trip to the Tang clan with me. Please. Duan Ling Tian's eyes were tainted with a wisp of crimson red as he looked at Han Xuanai and spoke with a tone that contained slight earnestness mixed within. Big brother Ling Tian, why are you being courteous with me? A matter of yours is a matter of mine. Xuanai shook her head and smiled, and then she first looked towards a nearby middle-aged man and asked indifferently, do you know where the Tang clan is? I know. The middle-aged man's face went pale when he was stared at by Han Xuanai. He who originally didn't want to be related to this matter nodded in the end under Han Xuanai's burning gaze. Lead the way, said Han Xuanai indifferently. Yes. The middle-aged man didn't dare hesitate to hastily fly towards the distance. What a joke. He clearly saw the methods of this young girl earlier. With a raise of her hands, she'd sealed all 5 of the Tang clan experts in ice. He knew his strength was far inferior to the Tang clan members. Thus, he was completely unable to arouse the intention to refuse when faced with the request of the young girl. Who knew if the young girl would become angry out of embarrassment because of this? If the young girl were to become enraged and kill him, it would only be a matter that happened in the blink of an eye. Whoosh! Duan Ling Tian flashed out first to follow the middle-aged man, whereas Han Xuanai followed closely behind. As for the other people who were present, their eyes lit up and they followed from afar. Looks like the Tang clan is going to suffer today. Yeah, if that young girl becomes enraged, then the Tang clan will probably be erased entirely from the Eastern Mulberry Empire. I originally thought that the young girl had an expert helping her, but when the young girl attacked earlier, I finally found out that there was utterly no one helping her. Her strength is too terrifying. I can be sure that she's an expert from the foreign lands. At the same time that the surrounding crowd of spectators followed Duan Ling Tian and Han Xuanai, they discussed animatedly. For a time, this corner of the imperial city had completely become bustling. This is the Tang clan estate. The middle-aged man that led the way pointed towards the vast estate ahead that possessed a majestic, imposing aura. Whoosh! Duan Ling Tian's gaze went slightly cold as he directly trespassed into the Tang clan estate. Who are you? The Tang clan disciples at the estate gates naturally wouldn't allow Duan Ling Tian to enter. K off. Duan Ling Tian's eyes were filled with ruthlessness. With a raise of his hand, he swung out his arm to easily blast the Tang clan disciples that block his way flying, causing them to suffer heavy injuries, and then he directly entered the Tang clan estate. While Han Xuanai followed closely behind Duan Ling Tian, she couldn't help but spit out her tongue. Big brother Ling Tian is really angry. Looks like that jade-eyed heavenly mouse's place in his heart isn't inferior to Little Black and Little White in the slightest. After trespassing into the Tang clan estate, Duan Ling Tian moved about as if he was moving through an empty area. Swish, 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 swish. The two little pythons flashed out ceaselessly, causing all the Tang clan disciples that blocked the way to fall to the ground. For a time, the entire Tang clan estate was in chaos. Flee! Flee quickly! Devil, he's a devil! He's a devil! The Tang clan disciples, guards, servants, and attendants of the Tang clan fled in all directions. Who dares trespass into my Tang clan? Finally, a grim shout sounded out, and a middle-aged man in luxurious clothes and a handsome appearance led over 10 elders to rush over hastily. Squeak, squeak. After the middle-aged man made an appearance, the little gold mouse that lay on Duan Ling Tian's shoulder raised her head with difficulty before crying out twice and sending a voice transmission to Duan Ling Tian. Big brother Ling Tian, it's him. He captured me and inflicted all sorts of torture to me, and he forced me to consume that origin block powder. Besides that, he seized the spatial collar you refined for me. As she finished speaking, the little gold mouse was extremely enraged. Hand over the antidote to the origin block powder. Duan Ling Tian looked at the middle-aged man in luxurious clothes and spoke word by word in a low voice. The middle-aged man in luxurious clothes hadn't even spoke when an old man behind him stood out and shouted with a grim voice. Kid, do you know who you're talking to? You even dare be presumptuous before our Tang clan's patriarch. It looks to me that you're courting death. As soon as the old man finished speaking, origin energy skyrocketed atop his body, and it seemed like a ball of flames that were leaping out without end. It looks to me that you're courting death. A chilly voice suddenly sounded out and entered into the ears of everyone present. In the next moment, a wave of extremely icy cold strong wind swept out as if it had transformed into a savage beast that pounced towards the old man. Instantly, the old man's body went stiff on the spot, and his entire body transformed into an ice sculpture. Ninth Elder. The middle-aged man in luxurious clothes, the patriarch of the Tang clan, went grim in expression, and then he stretched out his hand to press onto the ice sculpture as he wanted to rescue the old man. But along with his hand raising and pressing onto the ice sculpture, and his origin energy flickering out, cracks that were like a spider's web instantly appeared on the ice sculpture, and then it exploded to transform into countless bits of ice, whereas the old man that was sealed within the ice completely shattered. Ninth Elder. The Tang clan's patriarch was dumbstruck. What exactly is going on? Ice concept. It's the ice concept. Patriarch. This little girl has comprehended ice concept. Meanwhile, another old man with a discerning gaze looked at Han Xuanai and spoke with a tone that was filled with fear. Ice concept. The Tang clan patriarch's pupils constricted, and his body lightly trembled when he recalled the records related to ice concept that he'd seen in a book. Only now did he realize that it was he who'd indirectly killed his Tang clan's ninth elder earlier. Who exactly are you? The Tang clan's patriarch finally realized the severity of the matter. The young man and young girl had obviously come prepared, otherwise they wouldn't be so unbridled. Moreover, the cultivation of this young girl that had comprehended ice concept had obviously surpassed him. He was a 7th level void initiation stage martial artist at any rate. Yet he was actually inferior to a young girl that looked to be around 15 or 16, and it caused him to be slightly get mad. Who are we? Duan Ling Tian sneered. People that have come to collect a debt. Collect a debt. The Tang clan's patriarch was first stunned, and then he noticed the little gold mouse that lay on Duan Ling Tian's shoulder, and his face went pale. Why is it in your possession? He didn't think that the little gold mouse was bought by these people with a high price. Squeak. The little gold mouse emitted a sharp cry as she stared angrily at the Tang clan patriarch, and it was as if she'd seen her mortal enemy. Perhaps, in the eyes of the little gold mouse, she'd taken the patriarch of the Tang clan to be her mortal enemy since long ago. In my eyes, little gold is my family. Yet now, my family has been inflicted with all sorts of torture by your Tang clan, and she'd been forcefully poisoned with the origin block powder by your Tang clan. Duan Ling Tian's crimson-red eyes were filled with boundless ruthlessness, and his tone was low and heavy to the point it sent chills down the spines of others. Hand over the antidote that completely cures the origin block powder. Duan Ling Tian practically spoke word for word as he shouted with a grim voice. There's no antidote to cure the origin block powder, and there's only a medicine to suppress it. Presently, the Tang clan's patriarch had realized as well that his Tang clan's grand elder and the others were likely to have already been killed, and he who'd felt an extremely great sense of danger didn't dare hesitate in the slightest to answer Duan Ling Tian's questions. A young girl that looked to be around the age of 15 or 16 had a strength that was even stronger than him. As far as he was concerned, the background of these two people was extremely extraordinary, and it was extremely likely that they were the disciples of a formidable power in the foreign lands. There's no antidote to completely cure it. Duan Ling Tian's face went gloomy when he heard the Tang clan's patriarch. Under his extreme rage, Duan Ling Tian's mind had instead become clearer. How could I have forgotten about the spirit cleansing pill? With the spirit cleansing pill, would I still require the Tang clan's antidote? Instantly, Duan Ling Tian sobered up, and his eyes completely went cold when he looked at the Tang clan's patriarch one more. Xuanai, Duan Ling Tian called out with a light voice. Practically at the instant that Duan Ling Tian finished speaking, Han Xuanai attacked once again. She swung out her hand, causing the piercingly cold wind to sweep out once more. Whoosh! Before the Tang clan's patriarch and all the higher-ups could react, the cold wind had already enveloped them, transforming them into numerous ice sculptures. Over 10 human-shaped ice sculptures stood there, and it was an exceptionally magnificent sight. Little Gold. Duan Ling Tian stroked the little gold mouse on his shoulder that was weak and feeble, and then he lightly smiled. Go ahead. A bright light flashed past the little gold mouse's jade-green eyes, and her weak and feeble body struggled to stand up before pouncing towards the 10+ ice sculptures. The Tang clan's patriarch that was the first to transform into an ice sculpture was the first to be shattered by the little gold mouse. Subsequently, the remaining Tang clan higher-ups that had transformed into ice sculptures weren't able to escape by luck, and they were successively annihilated at the hands of the little gold mouse. Squeak, squeak. When the little gold mouse returned, those 10+ ice sculptures existed no more, and only bits of ice that covered the ground remained. The little gold mouse lowered her head to hold a piece of ice fragment amongst the numerous bits, and then she transformed into a gold bolt of lightning that returned to Duan Ling Tian's shoulder. After she passed that ice fragment over to Duan Ling Tian's hand, she couldn't endure any longer and fainted. She who was restrained by the origin block powder was in a similar state to having her origin energy being suppressed. She'd used a great deal of origin energy earlier, and it had already surpassed the load her body was currently able to handle. The little gold mouse's extremely dispirited appearance caused Duan Ling Tian's heart to ache, and then he passed the ice fragment in his hand to Han Xuanai. Xuanai, extract the spatial ring within it. The spatial ring within the fragment of ice was precisely the possession of the Tang clan's patriarch. Okay. Xuanai received the ice fragment, and with a raise of her hand, the ice on the spatial ring transformed into mist, revealing a simple-looking spatial ring on her hand before passing it to Duan Ling Tian. Let's go. Duan Ling Tian called over Xuanai before soaring into the sky, and he intended to leave the Tang clan estate. Presently, the culprit, the Tang clan's patriarch, was executed, and the group of Tang clan higher-ups had been buried along with him, causing Duan Ling Tian's anger to have reduced by a great deal. Whoosh, whoosh. Duan Ling Tian and Han Xuanai came and went like the wind, and in a blink of the eyes, they'd vanished from the Tang clan estate, whereas many Tang clan disciples walked out from odd places nearby where the two of them stood earlier. The patriarch, second elder, and all the others are gone just like that? As they looked at the ice fragments that covered the ground, their bodies trembled intensely, and their countenances were ghastly pale to the extreme. The earlier scene was something they were unable to forget for their entire lives. At that moment, they'd even held their breaths as they were deeply afraid that they would be targeted by that young girl that was like a devil and would transform into ice sculptures as well. Quickly report this to the ancestor. Someone shouted out. Subsequently, someone headed towards the depths of the Tang clan estate. Even if the ancestor arrives, he might not be able to do anything. Those two people are existences that our Tang clan is utterly unable to go against. Even if it's the ancestor, he doesn't possess the strength to annihilate the patriarch and all the elders with a flip of his palm. A Tang clan disciple with a discerning gaze couldn't help but sigh. It was just like he'd said when the Tang clan's ancestor descended, and after he heard of the sequence of events and saw the ice fragments that covered the ground. Although he was enraged to the limit, he didn't mention anything about taking revenge and only muttered in a daze. My Tang clan's calamity. My Tang clan's calamity. A crowd of people had surrounded outside the Tang clan estate. These people were all the people that had followed behind Duan Ling Tian and Han Xuanai to arrive here. But they didn't dare rashly trespass into the Tang clan estate, and they could only stay outside and wait for news. Not long after, they found out the sequence of events from some of the Tang clan disciples that left the Tang clan estate in panic. That young man and young woman annihilated all the Tang clan higher-ups, including the Tang clan's patriarch. Amongst the Tang clan experts, only the Tang clan's ancestor remains. Looks like the Tang clan is bound to decline. The Tang clan's ancestor is already over 100 years old now, and he probably doesn't have many years left to live. I truly never imagined that a powerful and prosperous power like the Tang clan would actually fall at the hands of a void initiation stage demon beast in the end. For a time, everyone sighed with emotion. At the same time, they recalled the violet-clothed young man and the yellow-clothed young women, and they couldn't help but feel a chill run down their spines. As far as they were concerned, offending those two people was no different than offending the god of death. Presently, after they left the Tang clan estate, Duan Ling Tian and Han Xuanai didn't directly return to the inn, and they instead went to the largest medicinal store in the Eastern Mulberry Empire. After they bought a pile of medicinal materials, they returned to the inn. Big brother Ling Tian, you're an alchemist as well? After they returned to the inn's room, Han Xuanai looked at watched Duan Ling Tian take out the medicinal material that they'd prepared earlier and took out a cauldron, and she was instantly surprised. Yes. Duan Ling Tian nodded, and with a raise of his hand, a strand of violet-colored flames lit up on his palm. If one were to look carefully, one would be able to see that in the surroundings of the violet-colored flames was a layer of copper edges that pulsated along with the violet-colored flames' movements, and it was extremely peculiar. Violet copper pill fire. The nearby Han Xuanai couldn't help but be moved. Big brother Ling Tian, you're a grade 3 alchemist. The violet copper pill fire was the grade 3 pill fire that was possessed solely by a grade 3 alchemist. When she saw a grade 3 pill fire appear in Duan Ling Tian's hand, she felt her heartbeat quicken slightly. It wasn't that she'd never seen a grade 3 alchemist, but she'd never heard nor seen a grade 3 alchemist that was so young. Yes. Duan Ling Tian nodded, and then he intentionally suppressed the pill fire in his hand to make it weaken. In next to no time, the violet with copper edges grade 3 pill fire and gradually become a blue-colored grade 4 pill fire. Meanwhile, Duan Ling Tian started to refine the medicinal pill. The medicinal pill Duan Ling Tian intended to refine was precisely the grade 4 spirit cleansing pill. It wasn't that he didn't want to refine a grade 3 spirit cleansing pill, but was instead because the medicinal material was difficult to find. Moreover, his cauldron was still a grade 4 spirit weapon, and it was utterly unable to withstand his grade 3 pill fire. So he could only suppress his pill fire to grade 4 and refine a grade 4 spirit cleansing pill. The medicinal materials he went to buy earlier were precisely the medicinal materials needed to refine a grade 4 spirit cleansing pill. Fortunately, the medicinal material required for the grade 4 spirit cleansing pill can't be considered to be rare. Otherwise, I can only seek a more inferior grade and refine a grade 5 spirit cleansing pill. Duan Ling Tian lightly sighed. Of course, as far as he was concerned, even a grade 5 spirit cleansing pill ought to be sufficient to remove the medicinal strength of the origin block powder in Little Gold's body. Whoosh. Duan Ling Tian's pill refinement technique wasn't inferior to his weapon's refinement technique, and he'd spent 2 hours of time before successfully refining a grade 4 spirit cleansing pill. After he fed the grade 4 spirit cleansing pill to the fainted little gold mouse, Duan Ling Tian pressed his hand onto her body before fusing his origin energy into her body, and he helped her dissolve the medicinal strength of the pill. Meanwhile, Duan Ling Tian could clearly sense that the medicinal strength of the origin block powder in Little Gold's body was steadily reducing, and it was completely unable to withstand the medicinal strength of the grade 4 spirit cleansing pill. After half an hour, the medicinal strength of the origin block powder was completely swept away by the overbearing medicinal strength of the grade 4 spirit cleansing pill, and it was unable to raise any trouble again. Little Gold had finally recovered to normal. Duan Ling Tian's face revealed a smile as he lightly stroked the little fellow's fluffy back, and he sighed. This little fellow is always struck by misfortune. When I saw her for the first time, she was at an auction house. When she went missing this time, she was actually captured again, and she'd similarly become an auction item. Hiss hiss. Meanwhile, the two little pythons flashed out from Duan Ling Tian's sleeve to descend on both left and right of the little gold mouse, and then their little heads stretched out to lightly rub the little gold mouse. Squeak squeak. After a short moment, the little gold mouse woke up, and the first thing she saw was the two little pythons that stood on both sides of herself. Squeak. Instantly, the little gold mouse seemed as if it had taken a stimulant, and she transformed into a gold light that dodged to the side before vigilantly staring at the two little pythons. Hiss hiss. The little black python flicked his tongue as he held his head up high before the little gold mouse, and his gaze carried complacency within it as he looked at the little gold mouse. Squeak. The golden fur on the entire body of the little gold mouse stood on end as if an explosion had occurred on its fur, and the origin energy on her body pulsated. Above her, two ancient horned dragon silhouettes appeared instantly, and they accumulated force while waiting to be deployed. The little black python was unwilling to be outdone, and four ancient horned dragon silhouettes appeared above him. The little gold mouse's tiny head drooped when she saw this scene, and she was slightly dispirited. Whoosh! In the next moment, the little gold mouse transformed into a gold light that descended onto Duan Ling Tian's shoulder, and she was like a little daughter-in-law that had been wronged. Hiss hiss. The two little pythons, on the other hand, were extremely complacent now, and they turned around to sweep their tails left and right towards the little gold mouse. Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but laugh when he saw this scene. He couldn't refrain from recalling that all those years ago, when the strengths of the two little pythons were inferior to the little gold mouse, the little gold mouse had once turned her back towards them and shook her, but to provoke them. Yet he never imagined that what goes around comes around. At this day, the strengths of the two little pythons had surpassed the little gold mouse. Big brother Ling Tian, Little Black and Little White are bullying me. Little Gold's voice of a young girl that was pleasant to the ear entered into Duan Ling Tian's ears, and it was filled with grievousness. Little Gold, if you didn't go too far in offending them that day, would they treat you like this today? Duan Ling Tian rolled his eyes at the little gold mouse, and he couldn't refrain from bursting into laughter. Little Gold, you're so cute. Right at this moment, Han Shui and I walked over and stretched out her hand to grab towards the little gold mouse. The little gold mouse didn't resist as well and allowed herself to be held in Han Shuenai's hands, and then her jade green eyes flickered as she carefully sized Han Shuenai up. Thank you, big sister, for helping me take revenge. Suddenly, a voice that sounded like a baby abruptly sounded out, and it caused Duan Ling Tian to be dumbstruck. He was able to discern that this wasn't a voice transmission and was instead words that were spoken out. You're only at the void initiation stage, yet you're able to speak already. Han Shuenai's eyes sprung wide open as she looked at the fluffy little gold mouse in her hand, and her beautiful face was stunned. Obviously, she was shocked. Heh, hee. I'm extremely formidable. The little gold mouse held up her little head as she blinked her jade green eyes, and then she complacently turned about her fluffy and chubby body, causing Han Shuenai to be unable to refrain from laughing. Able to speak? Even Duan Ling Tian was shocked by the little gold mouse. All those years ago, when Little Gold was able to send voice transmissions when she'd just stepped into the void prying stage, had already shocked him to the extreme. After all, in the memories of Rebirth Martial Emperor, only void initiation stage demon beasts can grasp the ability of sending voice transmission. As for speaking, that was the symbol of a void interpretation stage demon beast. Rebirth Martial Emperor had experienced 2 lifetimes, yet had never seen a demon beast that could speak before stepping into the void interpretation stage. Yet now, a special existence had appeared before Duan Ling Tian. According to the memories of the Rebirth Martial Emperor, normally, void initiation stage demon beasts are able to send voice transmission, void interpretation stage demon beasts are able to speak, and void transformation stage demon beasts can take human form. Duan Ling Tian's gaze stared fixedly at the little gold mouse that sat on Xuan Nai's hand in enjoyment, and then his heart shook. Yet little gold. She was able to send voice transmissions at the void prying stage, and now she's able to speak after breaking through to the void initiation stage. If it goes according to this pattern, then wouldn't she be able to take human form once she steps into the void interpretation stage? When he thought up to here, Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but gasp. Xuan Nai. Duan Ling Tian looked at Han Xuan Nai and asked, "When did Little Black and Little White start communicating with you via voice transmission?" Void initiation stage. Han Xuan Nai said, "Practically all void initiation stage demon beasts are able to send voice transmissions. This is extremely normal. But Little Gold being able to speak is something I can't wrap my head around of." As expected, Duan Ling Tian sighed to himself. Little White and Little Black were like ordinary demon beasts and were only able to send voice transmissions at the void initiation stage. Yet Little Gold had exceeded his expectations. "Xuan Nai, there's something you don't know? When Little Gold had just broken through to the void prying stage all those years ago, she was already able to communicate with me via voice transmission," said Duan Ling Tian. "What?" Han Xuan Nai was stunned one more, and then she stared at the little gold mouse in her hand as she carefully sized the little gold mouse up. This little fellow is so unusual. If this goes on, then wouldn't she be able to take human form and directly become a demon once she attains the void interpretation stage? I've never heard of a demon at the void interpretation stage. When she spoke up to here, Han Xuan Nai shook her head, and her beautiful eyes were filled with wonder and perplexion. Even she was unable to understand why Little Gold would be so special. So in this way, this little fellow is indeed out of the ordinary. Duan Ling Tian glanced at the little gold mouse and sighed. Squeak, squeak. The little gold mouse cried out before looking at the 2 little pythons. You two can't speak. You two aren't as formidable as me." Duan Ling Tian shook his head and laughed bitterly when he saw the little gold mouse actually still daring to provoke Little Black and Little White. Swish, swish. A black and a white bolt of lightning flashed by, scaring the little gold mouse to the point she curled up in Han Xuan Nai's hands. A man of honor, doesn't resort to force, but reason. The little gold mouse's words entered into the ears of Duan Ling Tian and Han Xuan Nai, causing them to be unable to help but be stunned, and then they looked at each other and burst into laughter. Where did this little fellow learn all this? Little Gold's luck isn't bad. We can bring her along to the Sword Monarch's treasure this time, and perhaps there's some good fortune of hers in there, said Han Xuan Nai. Duan Ling Tian nodded. In the following days, Duan Ling Tian and Han Xuan Nai didn't go out, and they spent their time in the inn. Unknowingly, the agreed-upon date with the other possessors of the Jade Swords had arrived, whereas Duan Ling Tian and Han Xuan Nai headed towards Pheasant Ridge. Pheasant Ridge was situated at the north of Eastern Mulberry Empire's imperial city, a vast mountain ridge that was tens of times larger in size when compared to the Eastern Mulberry Empire's imperial city. Big Brother Ling Tian, once we gather with them and arrive at that Sword Monarch's treasure to open it with the 9 Jade Swords, should I freeze them all into popsicles? In that way, there would be no one to fight for the things in the Sword Monarch's treasure with us. Han Xuan Nai's beautiful eyes flashed as she revealed the smile of a devil. Although Duan Ling Tian had a thought like this since long ago, he still felt a shiver run down his spine when he heard Han Xuan Nai say it, and then his heart shook. This little girl Xuan Nai is really a complete little devil. Fortunately, we're friends and not enemies. There's no need. Duan Ling Tian shook his head and rejected Han Xuan Nai's plan. In the last 2 days, besides cultivation, he was considering many things related to the Sword Monarch's treasure. The Sword Monarch's treasure was undoubtedly left behind by a martial monarch. This was something that could be perceived from its name alone. Treasures that were left behind by martial monarchs and martial emperors were usually games that were intentionally made by them. Perhaps there would be a great deal of treasures within it, but there would be corresponding tests. All those years ago, the Rebirth Martial Emperor had once played a similar game. There was one time, he'd intentionally opened up a treasure vault, and in the end, all the people who entered met their end. When he thought up to here, Duan Tian felt slightly terrified. In the eyes of those formidable martial monarchs and martial emperors, even an existence at the void transformation stage was no different to an ant. It was difficult for the death of an ant to affect their state of mind. To them, the games they created were only existences that provided them with entertainment. Xuanai, think about it. Even if there are treasures in that sword monarch's treasure, it would surely not be easy to obtain. Since they're following us in, we can let them seek out the path through the place, and we can take lesser risks. Duan Tian said to Han Xuanai, if we really encounter some treasure in there, it wouldn't be late for you to make a move at that time. At any rate, there ought to be no one amongst them that can compare to your strength. Big brother Ling Tian has thought through it well in the end. All right, we'll do it like that. Duan Tian's suggestion obtained Han Xuanai's approval, and then an evil smile appeared on Han Xuanai's face. Seizing things from others is my favorite. When I was small, I always seized away Shui Yi's toys. Shui. Duan Tian was stunned when he heard Han Xuanai. Who's that? Han Xuanai's eyes were filled with a cunning expression. She's my Uncle Mu's daughter, and she'd half a month elder to me. Since we were small, my favorite thing was to seize away her things, whereas she would cry every single time. Duan Tian was speechless, and he silently mourned for Mu Shui. Subsequently, Duan Tian withdrew the jade sword and contacted the other possessors of the jade swords via the void transmission inscription. Squeak, squeak. The little gold mouse stuck her head out from Duan Tian's sleeve, and then she cried out twice as she curiously sized up the surroundings. After 2 days of recovery, the little gold mouse's spirits were high. Hiss, hiss. On the other side, the two little pythons stuck out their heads from Han Xuanai's sleeve, and they flicked their tongues and didn't forget to look provocatively at the little gold mouse. Two idiots that don't know how to speak. The little gold mouse's childish voice was finally able to be continuous now, but her words of provocation had infuriated the two little pythons. If it wasn't for Han Xuanai soothing the two little pythons, they'd probably have already pounced up to fight the little gold mouse. Little gold, you can't do this again. If you do, then I won't care about you and let little black and little white properly spar with you. Duan Tian glared at the little gold mouse, terrifying her to the point she playfully spat out her tongue and went back into Duan Tian's sleeve, and she didn't make any more movements after that. Little black, little white. Both of you conceal yourselves first, said Duan Tian to the two little pythons before calling out to Han Xuanai. Xuanai, we're going that way. Duan Tian's group of two headed directly north of Pheasant Ridge. When they arrived in the air above a gorge that contained singing birds and fragrant flowers, Duan Tian looked down at the gorge beneath him. Xuanai, let's go down. This is the place I agreed to meet with them at. Subsequently, Duan Tian and Han Xuanai descended into the gorge. Presently, there were already 4 people waiting in the gorge. These 4 people were divided into 2 groups. One of the groups was formed from 2 middle-aged men in embroidered clothes. The other group was made of a robust middle-aged man and an azure-clothed old man. Meanwhile, all 4 of them were dumbstruck when they saw Duan Tian and Han Xuanai make an appearance. A young man around the age of 25 and a young girl around the age of 15 or 16. Was this a pair of lost brother and sister? The 4 of them didn't think that one of these 2 people were possessors of a jade sword. Cute little lady, have you and your big brother gotten lost? The robust middle-aged man took a stride forward, and then he looked at Han Xuanai before lightly smiling and asking, and it was like an adult beguiling a kid. It's you. Han Xuanai hadn't reacted when Duan Tian, who stood at the side, had already exclaimed in a low voice. You're... The robust middle-aged man couldn't help but be stunned when he heard Duan Tian, and then he was unable to refrain from sizing Duan Tian up. Brother, do I know you? Although you don't know me, But the two of us have communicated more than once or twice before this, right? You wouldn't be unable to even discern my voice, right? Duan Ling Tian's eyes narrowed as he spoke slowly. When the robust, middle-aged man spoke, Duan Ling Tian had recognized his identity. It was precisely the first jade sword possessor that Duan Ling Tian had contacted, the owner of the sonorous voice. You? It's you. The robust, middle-aged man finally reacted, and he sized up Duan Ling Tian as if he was looking at a ghost before laughing bitterly. I truly never imagined that you're actually so young. As he finished speaking, the robust middle-aged man glanced at Han Xuanai by Duan Ling Tian's side, and he was speechless. This fellow brought a young girl along. Does he think that Sword Monarch's treasure is a game? I'm called Dong Ming. Brother, what's your name? The middle-aged man asked. Duan Ling Tian, said Duan Ling Tian. So it's Brother Duan Ling Tian. Brother Duan Ling Tian. This is Elder Hu. He's a senior of mine. Meanwhile, the robust middle-aged man introduced the azure-clothed old man to Duan Ling Tian. Elder Hu. Duan Ling Tian lightly smiled to greet the old man. MMM. Elder Hu only nodded indifferently to Duan Ling Tian before disregarding him completely. Obviously, Elder Hu didn't take Duan Ling Tian seriously at all. Duan Ling Tian paid no attention to it. After all, his age was there for all to see, and it was indeed insufficient to draw the attention of others. But Duan Ling Tian didn't mind, yet Han Xuannia beside him didn't like it. Geezer, didn't you hear my big brother Ling Tian greeting you? This young miss hates old goats like you that look down on others because of being old. Duan Ling Tian wanted to stop her, but he was already too late. This little girl Xue Nai had always spoken her mind freely and would argue to the point of death. Little girl, watch out. Misfortune comes from the mouth. The azure-clothed old man's face sank slightly, and then he abruptly looked at Han Xuanai with hid muddy eyes that flashed with killing intent. Misfortune comes from the mouth? Old goat, How could Han Xuanai endure it when she heard the old man's threats? She instantly lost her temper. Xuanai. Meanwhile, Duan Ling Tian stretched out his hand to grab Han Xuanai's hand, and then he lightly shook his head as he sent out a voice transmission. There's no need to behave badly like him. Moreover, this old fellow's strength isn't bad. Once he enters the Sword Monarch's treasure and locates some treasures, we can seize it from him then. Killing him now isn't worth it. Duan Ling Tian's words caused Han Xuanai's expression to ease up, and she grunted. Old goat, out of respect for big brother Ling Tian, this young miss won't fuss about it with you. At the same time, traces of an excited sheen appeared in Han Xuanai's eyes, and then she sent a voice transmission to Duan Ling Tian. Big brother Ling Tian, you're right. Once this old goat finds a treasure, we'll seize it from him and cause him to spit blood from anger before killing him. Han Xuanai's voice transmission caused Duan Ling Tian to feel a chill run down his spine, and he couldn't help but mourn silently for the azure-clothed old man. This old fellow didn't offend anyone else, yet dared offend this little devil. You. The old man's expression went livid with anger from being scolded by a young girl around the age of 15 or 16, and his body trembled. When he saw the old man beside him about to lose his temper, the nearby Dong Ming hurriedly stopped him. Elder Hu, since this young miss has already compromised, there's no need to continue fussing about it with him. Just let it go. Humph. Elder Hu snorted coldly, and in the end, he listened to Dong Ming and didn't flare up. Duan Ling Tian glanced indifferently at the old man. The old man's cultivation was unable to escape before his spiritual force. This old man was in existence at the 8th level of the Void Initiation stage. In terms of strength, he was comparable to the Tang clan's Grand Elder that had been sealed in ice by Han Xuanai and died at Duan Ling Tian's hands. Meanwhile, the gorge returned to peace once more, whereas the two middle-aged men that stood at the side were now sizing up Duan Ling Tian and Han Xuanai with eyes that revealed a strange sheen that was imperceptible. It was unknown what they were thinking. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Numerous figures descended down into the gorge from above. It wasn't long before the remaining 5 groups of people had arrived as appointed. These people all came in groups of 2. Presently, when the other 5 groups of people appeared, they couldn't help but be stunned when they saw the combination of Duan Ling Tian and Han Xuanai. They're possessors of jade swords as well. In next to no time, there was someone that looked towards Duan Ling Tian and asked with a doubtful expression. Duan Ling Tian didn't say anything further. With a raise of his hand, he withdrew the jade sword that belonged to him from his spatial ring, and he waved about before the people that doubted him. Instantly, all those people didn't speak further. Young man, if I were you, I'd have found a senior to go to the Sword Monarch's treasure vault with me. You're truly too rash. A green-clothed old man that was comparatively kind-hearted shook his head and sighed. The dangers of the Sword Monarch's treasure were something that no one was able to expect. It was precisely because of this that no one dared look down upon the dangers within it. The unknown was undoubtedly the most terrifying. Under these circumstances, the stronger one's strength was, the more chances one would have to survive and obtain the fortune that belonged to oneself. Thank you for the reminder, Senior. Duan Ling Tian smiled gratefully towards the old man's reminder. But Junior has a grasp of the situation, and I won't trouble Senior to worry about me. Have everyone else brought along their jade swords? Meanwhile, another person withdrew his jade sword and asked the others. For a time, the other 7 groups of people withdrew their own respective jade swords and displayed it before everyone's eyes. The 9 jade swords were gathered together. Right at this moment, Duan Ling Tian noticed that the jade sword in his hand had started to vibrate suddenly, and it was as if it was summoned and urgently wanted to escape his hands. The jade swords of the other 8 people were almost the same. The 9 jade swords were all trembling now, and every single jade sword pointed at the same place. More precisely speaking, it was the same spot. According to legend, once the 9 swords combine into one, they'll transform into a completely new jade sword that would guide us to head towards the Sword Monarch's treasure. Meanwhile, Dong Ming, who held a jade sword, spoke out. Everyone, how about we allow the 9 swords to combine into one now and search for the Sword Monarch's treasure? As soon as Dong Ming finished speaking, he looked around towards the surroundings. I have no objections. Duan Ling Tian shrugged with an indifferent expression. I have no objections either. I have no objections. For a time, besides Dong Ming, who put forward the suggestion, another 5 people who held jade swords in their hands shook their heads. Including Duan Ling Tian and Dong Ming, a total of 7 people agreed to directly allow the 9 swords to combine into one and search for the Sword Monarch's treasure. Only the remaining 2 people that held jade swords didn't make their stands known. One of them was precisely one of the 2 middle-aged men in embroidered clothes that had arrived at the gorge long ago. The other person was a short, emaciated old man with a pair of crossed eyes. Meanwhile, Duan Ling Tian noticed that the middle-aged man in embroidered clothes and the emaciated old man suddenly looked at each other before looking at him at the same time. More precisely speaking, they looked at him and Han Xuan, who was beside him. What do the 2 of you want to do? Dong Ming's face went slightly grim. It's nothing. We just feel that some people don't have the qualifications to hold jade swords. Why don't they hand over the jade sword and give over 2 positions? The middle-aged man in embroidered clothes that held a jade sword looked at Duan Ling Tian as he shook his head. It was as if he was speaking of a matter of no great importance. Exactly. The emaciated old man that similarly held onto a jade sword nodded in agreement. I still have a friend that's at the Eastern Mulberry Empire's Imperial City. I originally didn't intend to bring him with me, but since there are 2 more positions now, I intended to call him over now. He's in existence at the 7th level of the Void Initiation stage, and if he enters the Sword Monarch's treasure with us, he would be of great help to us. The emaciated old man's words caused many people whose faces became grim to heave a sigh of relief. Exactly. They knew nothing of the dangers within the Sword Monarch's treasure, but they could be sure of one thing: the stronger their strengths were, the higher their chances of surviving in there would be. For a time, the gazes of most people descended onto Duan Ling Tian and Han Xuan. Perhaps, in their eyes, if a violet-clothed young man around the age of 25 and a yellow-clothed young girl around the age of 15 or 16 were to enter the Sword Monarch's treasure, the young man and young girl would be of no help to them and would only be a burden to them. But although the others thought in this way, they didn't speak out, and they only watched coldly from the sidelines and allowed the situation to develop. These people included Dong Ming as well. After a short moment, Duan Ling Tian and Han Xuanai were surrounded from four corners by the two middle-aged men in embroidered clothes, the emaciated old man, and a gray-clothed old woman. These four pairs of gazes stared covetously at the jade sword in Duan Ling Tian's hand. "Kid, if you hand over the jade sword and leave right away, we can spare your life." "Exactly. So long as you hand over the jade sword and give up those two spots, then since there are no ill feelings between us, there's no need for us to make a move against you. Kid, if you're sensible, then put down the jade sword and F***K off." The four people looked at Duan Ling Tian, and their words were filled with threats. Within the gorge, a fight was about to break out. Of course, there were also another 5 groups of people watching the show. Brother Ling Tian, Dong Ming that stood in the distance frowned. He was slightly unable to continue watching this any longer, and he took a step forward and wanted to help Duan Ling Tian. Dong Ming. Meanwhile, the azure-clothed old man by Dong Ming's side restrained him. "Don't get involved in this situation. Otherwise, I won't forgive you." Dong Ming's figure stiffened, and then he glanced at Duan Ling Tian with a guilty gaze before sighing, and he withdrew his footstep in the end. This scene was clearly noticed by Duan Ling Tian. At the same time that warmth arose in his heart, he couldn't help but feel slight rage. Of course, this rage was directed towards the azure-clothed old man. "Brother Ling Tian, hand over the jade sword to them. No matter what the sword monarch's treasure contains, all of that is imaginary, and only your life is real and most important." Dong Ming's voice transmission sounded out by Duan Ling Tian's ears. Dong Ming wanted to persuade Duan Ling Tian to give up the jade sword and leave. Duan Ling Tian naturally knew that Ding Ming meant well. "No matter what, only you aroused the intention to help me and persuade me amongst all the people present. I, Duan Ling Tian, will remember this favor." Duan Ling Tian nodded to Dong Ming, and then after speaking for a short, while via voice transmission, he changed the topic. "But it isn't any Tom, Dick, and Harry who have the ability to seize the jade sword in my hand." Dong Ming was stunned. It was difficult for him to imagine where exactly this young man got such great confidence from. Even if his natural talent was any higher, a young man that looked to be around the age of 25 would at most be a martial artist that had just stepped into the void initiation stage. As for the other young girl that was around the age of 15 or 16, her ability to fly had already shocked him. As far as he was concerned, the young girl was at most a genius martial artist that had just broken through to the void prying stage. "Kid, I'll give you another 5 breaths of time to consider. At that time, if you still don't put down the jade sword in your hand, then you and this little girl are dead." The middle-aged man in embroidered clothes that held a jade sword threatened with a stern voice. "You're extremely young and possess many more good years. There's no need to throw away your life for a jade sword." The emaciated old man had an expressionless face as he looked at Duan Ling Tian, and although his tone was flat, yet it contained killing intent concealed within. Even though he was facing the threats of others, Duan Ling Tian's expression was still calm as before, and it was as if his expression wouldn't change even if Mount Tai collapsed before him. Subsequently, Duan Ling Tian looked at Han Xuanai, who was beside him, and asked with a smile, "Xuanai, someone wants to seize our jade sword and seize out spots to enter the sword monarch's treasure. What do you think we should do?" No one noticed that long before, when the two middle-aged men in embroidered clothes, the emaciated old man, and gray-clothed old lady surrounded over, a sheen of excitement was faintly emitted from the depths of Han Xuanai's gaze. Presently, when she heard Duan Ling Tian, Han Xuanai's expression revealed a light smile that could turn all living creatures upside down. "Big brother Ling Tian, what do you think?" Han Xuanai looked at Duan Ling Tian with an intention of allowing Duan Ling Tian to decide. From the beginning until the end, Han Xuanai didn't look the 4 people that surrounded them in the eye. Perhaps in her eyes, these 4 people weren't worthy of her looking them in the eye. "I think we can let them have a taste of their own medicine. For example, let them choose to either put down the jade sword or be thick-headed and die." Duan Ling Tian spoke indifferently, and as he finished speaking, his gaze swept past the 4 people that surrounded him and Han Xuanai. As soon as Duan Ling Tian finished speaking, Everyone in the surroundings couldn't help but be stunned. Has this young man gone mad? He's obviously courting death. No one looked favorably upon Duan Lingtian. Dongming frowned. He originally wanted to say something, yet when he saw the confidence that Duan Lingtian's eyes emitted, he instead became slightly hesitant for a time. Where does Brother Lingtian get such great confidence from? Dongming's heart was filled with curiosity. Subconsciously, he had a strong feeling of intuition that Duan Lingtian's confidence seemed to not be something without reason. The four people that surrounded Duan Lingtian were stunned for a moment when they heard Duan Lingtian's words. The emaciated old man was the first to react, and he said with rage, "Looks like both of you really don't want to hand over the jade sword. Since it's like that, then this old fellow will send you on your way." As soon as the emaciated old man finished speaking, he flashed out like an eagle that plunged towards Duan Lingtian. His vast origin energy condensed into form in his hand, transforming into palm prints that covered the sky, and it formed a heaven-encompassing net that enveloped down towards Duan Lingtian. Whoosh! In the sky, 10 lifelike ancient horned dragon silhouettes appeared. 7th level of the Void Initiation Stage. Duan Lingtian's brows raised. Humph! Right at this moment, a cold snort suddenly sounded out. It was Han Xuanai who was beside Duan Lingtian that made a move. With a raise of her hand, piercingly cold winds swept out to meet the emaciated old man, whereas the emaciated old man's figure instantly stopped halfway. His entire body had transformed into an ice sculpture that was connected to the ground, and he didn't move in the slightest. The palm prints that covered the sky were blasted into dispersion by the cold wind that was icy cold to the extreme, and it transformed into nothingness. The gorge was completely, deathly silent as expected. Everyone stared blankly at the scene before them, and they were completely dumbstruck. For a time, only the sound of a breeze blowing by could be heard in the gorge. A great 7th level Void Initiation Stage expert was frozen into a popsicle by a young girl around the age of 15 or 16 with a raise of her hand. "Old man." The gray-clothed old woman went pale in expression as she exclaimed in sorrow and pounced towards the ice sculpture with the intention of saving the old man that was frozen within. "Stay your hand." Meanwhile, the two middle-aged men in embroidered clothes went grim in expression as they hurriedly shouted out to stop her. Unfortunately, their warning was still too late. When the hand of the gray-clothed old woman touched the ice sculpture. Crack! A hideous crack instantly split open on the ice sculpture, and it was like a spider's web as it spread out towards the surroundings. When the cracks spread to the limit, bang! The ice sculpture transformed into countless pieces of ice that crashed to the ground, whereas the body of the emaciated old man that was frozen inside shattered into pieces along with the ice sculpture. Even though the old man had died, he didn't leave behind even a trace of blood. The peculiar scene caused the people that had recovered from their shock to gasp. Old man. The old woman was stunned, completely dumbstruck. She'd killed her own husband? "I want you dead." Under her extreme rage, the old woman lost all reason and disregarded her life as she pounced towards Han Xuanai. The outcome was obvious. The old woman transformed into an ice sculpture as well, and she stood there with a strange posture. Humph! Along with Han Xuanai snorting coldly and lightly raising her hand to touch the ice sculpture. The ice sculpture that sealed the old woman within was instantly shattered into countless pieces. The old woman followed in the footsteps of her husband. What a terrifying ice concept. Dong Ming's pupils constricted, and his heartbeat abruptly quickened. Now he finally understood why Duan Lingtian would be so confident. So it turned out that such an expert existed by Duan Lingtian's side. Killing two 7th level Void Initiation Stage martial artists was simply as easy as killing chicken and cutting grass. If he didn't see it with his own two eyes, it would be difficult for him to believe it. A young girl that looked to be 15 or 16 at most actually possessed such a terrifying cultivation. Most importantly, from the beginning until the end, when the young girl attacked twice, the energy of heaven and earth hadn't completely condensed into ancient horned dragon silhouettes when she'd already stopped attacking, and it caused others to be unable to see through what exactly her cultivation was. Demon. In the next moment, A thought suddenly emerged in Dong Ming's mind. After this thought arose, it was difficult to disperse any longer. A void transformation stage demon beast was able to take human form, and it was called as a demon. This was something that was common knowledge. Most importantly, after a void transformation stage demon beast took human form, it had a chance to construct its outward appearance by itself. According to rumor, some demons with strange tempers like to transform themselves into the appearance of human children. In the foreign lands, it would usually be very likely that human children that looked to be around 7 or 8 years of age were void transformation stage demons, and their strengths were extremely terrifying. It wasn't only Dong Ming, many people had similar thoughts. She. The body of the old man called Elder who that stood by Dong Ming's side started to tremble imperceptibly. When he recalled the conflict he had with the young girl earlier, he couldn't help but feel a lingering fear in his heart. If he were to have dared make a move against the young girl at that time, he could imagine the outcome. The young girl killed 7th level void initiation stage martial artists like she was cutting grass and slaughtering chickens. He didn't think that he would be any better than those 7th level void initiation stage martial artists. Along with Duan Ling Tian and Han Xuan Ai's gaze moving to shoot at the two middle-aged men in embroidered clothes that surrounded them, the gazes of the other people descended onto the two of them in unison as well. At this moment, their gazes were filled with pity. You, both of you are the people that slaughtered all the higher-ups of the Tang clan, including their Grand Elder and Patriarch 2 days ago. The middle-aged man that held the jade sword had recalled the incident that gave rise to much discussion in the Eastern Mulberry Empire's imperial city 2 days ago, since long ago, when Han Xuan Nai attacked the first time. Now he had to connect that incident with the yellow-clothed young girl before him, because their methods were too similar. I remember now. An old man that was spectating couldn't help but exclaim in shock. I heard that 2 days ago, a terrifying young girl that comprehended ice concept transformed all the higher-ups of the Tang clan into ice sculptures before killing them. So it was her. I heard of that incident as well. Supposedly, that young girl can even kill 8th level void initiation stage martial artists with a raise of her hand. Looks like someone is going to be struck with misfortune. The surrounding people whispered in discussion. They didn't have the slightest pity towards the two middle-aged men that went ghastly pale and were shivering. At the root of it all, the incident was something that the two middle-aged men had brought upon themselves, and they couldn't blame others. When you come out into the world, you have to pay your debts in the end. I'll hand over the jade sword to you. I'll hand over my jade sword to you. Don't kill me, don't kill me. The middle-aged man that held a jade sword took the jade sword to be a hot sweet potato at this moment, and he hurriedly tossed it below Han Xuan Ai's feet as he spoke in panic. The jade sword is yours. We give up our chance to enter the sword monarch's treasure. We'll leave now. We'll leave now. The other middle-aged man glanced at Han Xuan Ai with fear, and when he noticed Han Xuan Ai's face was expressionless, he took a deep breath before origin energy skyrocketed beneath his feet, and he charged into the sky. The other middle-aged man before him instantly followed up when he saw his companion leaving. Big Brother Ling Tian gave both of you a chance, and it's both of you that didn't treasure it properly. Han Xuan Nai spoke slowly with a voice that was moving like an aureole's, but when it entered into the ears of everyone present, it was instead no different to the voice of a devil. Whoosh! Along with Han Xuan Nai raising her hand, a strong gale that was icy cold to the extreme swept out and shot into the sky. Instantly, the two middle-aged men that had just soared into the sky stiffened, and they transformed into two ice sculptures that floated in the sky, and they gently glowed under the rays of the scorching sun. The origin energy on their bodies were ceaselessly being suppressed, and after a short moment, it was completely consumed. The two ice sculptures lost the support of origin energy and crashed onto the ground to shatter into two piles of ice fragments. The gorge was deathly silent once more. Besides Duan Ling Tian, the gazes everyone shot at Han Xuan Nai was filled with terror that came from the soul. This young girl's ability had completely stunned them. If she's a human, she's at least a void interpretation stage expert. Or perhaps she's a demon that has stepped into the void transformation stage. This was the uniform thought that arose in the hearts of everyone present. Duan Ling Tian took 2 steps forward and searching for a moment in the pile of ice where the emaciated old man's ice sculpture shattered before digging out the jade sword that originally belonged to the old man. The jade sword was without a single scratch on it, and Duan Ling Tian wasn't surprised by this. This jade sword was the key to the Sword Monarch's treasure at any rate, something that was left behind by a martial monarch. Unless it was an expert at the martial monarch stage or above, it would probably be as difficult as ascending the heavens for an ordinary martial artist to damage it. Subsequently, Duan Ling Tian picked up the jade sword that was by Han Xuanai's feet. For a time, Duan Ling Tian had 3 jade swords in his hand. Everyone, please take out your jade swords and allow the 9 swords to unite into one so that it may lead us to head towards the Sword Monarch's treasure. Duan Ling Tian's gaze swept past the remaining 6 groups of people. These people were all the people that had agreed to unite the jade swords. They didn't refuse to unite the 9 swords earlier, and not that they'd witnessed Han Xuanai's strength that was terrifying to the extreme. They didn't dare dally even more and let go of the jade sword in their hands. Whereas, Duan Ling Tian let go of the 3 jade swords in his hand as well. Instantly, the 9 jade swords shot into the sky and collided together. A strong light flashed by, and it caused everyone to unconsciously narrow their eyes. When everyone, including Duan Ling Tian, opened their eyes once more, a completely new jade sword had appeared before their eyes. This was a jade sword that flickered with jade-green flowing lights on its entire body, and it emitted waves of sharp and fierce aura. Swish! The jade sword trembled before transforming into a jade light by itself and flashing towards the south. Instantly, all of them transformed into flowing lights that chased up to it. Let's go as well. Duan Ling Tian called out to Han Xuanai before following up to the completely new jade sword. Big brother Ling Tian, wait a moment. They'd only flown out for a short moment when Han Xuanai called out to Duan Ling Tian. Right when Duan Ling Tian was stunned by this. Big guy, Xuanai's voice had already sounded out far away and swept through the entire Pheasant Ridge. Although the Pheasant Ridge was large, but Han Xuanai's voice that contained origin energy still clearly spread to every corner of it. Whoosh! In next to no time, an extremely enormous figure shot into the sky and appeared before Duan Ling Tian's eyes. It was precisely the 3-eyed flame tiger. I almost forgot this big fellow. Duan Ling Tian smiled. Subsequently, Duan Ling Tian and Han Xuanai sat onto the back of the 3-eyed flame tiger and let it carry them to hurry on. With the 3-eyed flame tiger's speed, it wasn't long before Duan Ling Tian had caught up to the group of 12 people before them. At the beginning, when these 12 people saw a demon beast that was enormous like a mountain chasing after them, they thought they'd disturbed this demon beast, and they were all as if facing a great enemy. Brother Ling Tian. Dong Ming's eyes were sharp and noticed Duan Ling Tian that was on the back of the demon beast, and he was instantly slightly surprised. Duan Ling Tian light smiled and nodded to Dong Ming. Get on. Riding this big fellow is faster than you flying yourself. However, at this moment, Dong Ming seemed petrified, and he stared blankly at the enormous beast before him. Brother Ling Tian, this demon beast. It wouldn't be our Darkstone Empire's guarding demon beast, the 3-eyed flame tiger, right? Dong Ming fiercely gulped down a mouthful of saliva and asked with difficulty. It's exactly him. Duan Ling Tian nodded. Dong Ming was greatly shocked in his heart when he heard this. As someone from the Darkstone Empire, he naturally knew what the 3-eyed flame tiger meant to the Darkstone Empire. The person with the strongest strength in the Darkstone Empire was undoubtedly King Yong, whereas, below King Yong, was this 9th level Void Initiation Stage Demon Beast, the 3-eyed Flame Tiger, and the few 9th level Void Initiation Stage experts of the Imperial family. The Darkstone Empire's guarding Demon Beast? Instantly, many people were dumbstruck. Even the Darkstone Empire's guarding Demon Beast has been abducted by them. This thought couldn't help but emerged in the hearts of some people. As far as they were concerned, that yellow-clothed young girl was a figure like a little devil, and any exaggerated thing she did wasn't surprising. Moreover, with the young girl's strength, she was utterly unafraid of the Darkstone Empire. Even if she abducted the Empire guarding demon beast of the Darkstone Empire, the Darkstone Empire would probably not dare to say a single word. Under Duan Ling Tian's beckoning, Dong Ming descended onto the back of the three-eyed flame tiger. Elder Hu. Meanwhile, Dong Ming called out to the azure-clothed old man as he wanted to ask the old man to ascend the extremely spacious back of the three-eyed flame tiger as well. But the azure-clothed old man shook his head instead and refused Dong Ming's good intentions. What a joke. He'd even come into conflict with the two of them earlier. At this time, not to mention it would be embarrassing to sit on their demon beast. Even if he thickened his face and sat there, he would probably be blasted down by them. He was able to feel the hostility the yellow-clothed young girl had towards him. A day's time quickly passed by. However, the Jade Sword's speed didn't have any intention of slowing down. Where exactly is this Sword Monarch's treasure? 3 days later, some people were unable to endure any longer. Even if someone was made of iron, 3 days and nights of flying would more or less cause them to feel a trace of exhaustion. Many people looked at Duan Ling Tian's group of 3 that sat cross-legged on the back of the three-eyed flame tiger with gazes filled with envy, and they wished for nothing more than to be able to ascend the back of the three-eyed flame tiger and be carried by it for a while. But they didn't have the courage to do that. Who knew if that yellow-clothed young girl would freeze them into ice sculptures if they did that? When they recalled the 4 people that had died at the hands of the young girl 3 days ago, they still felt a lingering fear in their hearts. Who? Duan Ling Tian, who was on the back of the three-eyed flame tiger, woke up from his cultivation, and his gaze flickered. My cultivation has finally come close to the bottleneck of the 2nd level of the Void Initiation stage. It's time to consume the Spirit Void Fruit. As Duan Ling Tian spoke, a translucent and glittering spirit fruit had appeared in his hand. A dense fragrance effused out. Spirit Void Fruit. Han Xuanai looked at the spirit fruit at the first possible moment, and although she was slightly surprised, she didn't pay attention to it. To her, a spirit void fruit was completely useless. But Han Xuanai paying no attention to it didn't mean that the others would pay no attention to it. At this moment, including Dong Ming, everyone stared with a burning gaze at the spirit void fruit in Duan Ling Tian's hands. If it wasn't for being afraid of the young girl's terrifying strength, they'd probably have swarmed over all together and seized the spirit void fruit in Duan Ling Tian's hand. A spirit void fruit was a spirit fruit that was specially used by void initiation stage martial artists, and even if a 9th level void initiation stage martial artist consumed it, it would provide an extremely great assistance. Besides Han Xuanai, everyone present was a void initiation stage expert, and their eyes all went red with greed as they looked at the spirit void fruit in Duan Ling Tian's hand. Squeak, squeak. Hiss, hiss. Presently, even little gold, little black, and little white that were concealed under Duan Ling Tian's and Han Xuanai's sleeves were slightly restless. Under the gazes of everyone present, Duan Ling Tian stuffed the spirit void fruit in his hand into his mouth and swallowed it with a few mouthfuls. A strand of warmth moved along his throat to flow into his body. The warmth contained vast medicinal strength that he could feel clearly. This spirit void fruit was precisely the spirit fruit he'd obtained that day from the pavilion master, Xiangying, of the Darkhan Dynasty's Milky Way City's treasure-gathering pavilion. He didn't consume it earlier because he was waiting for an opportune moment. Although the medicinal strength of the spirit void fruit couldn't be considered to be at the top amongst the spirit fruits used specially by void initiation stage martial artists, it was undoubtedly extremely strong to 1st level void initiation stage martial artists. After he broke through to the void initiation stage, Duan Ling Tian had a plan. He would wait for his 1st level void initiation stage cultivation to stabilize and move a step forward before consuming the spirit void fruit, and then he would strive to break through 2 levels in one go in a short period of time. Strive to directly step into the 3rd level of the void initiation stage. If it wasn't for this, Duan Ling Tian would have already consumed the spirit void fruit at that time when he'd just broken through to the 1st level of the void initiation stage. As the saying goes, use the best steel on the blade. Duan Ling Tian's was waiting for this moment. After he consumed the spirit void fruit, Duan Ling Tian closed his eyes and started to meditate and cultivate. As for chasing after the Jade Sword and heading to the Sword Monarch's treasure, He utterly didn't have to worry since he was riding the three-eyed flame tiger. What he could do now was cultivate earnestly and see if he was able to smoothly break through to the third level of the Void Initiation stage before entering the Sword Monarch's treasure. 9 dragons wore sovereign technique, Earth Dragon form. Unknowingly, Duan Ling Tian had completely immersed his mind into his cultivation. Time silently passed by. The jade sword that led the way in the front seemed like a tireless machine, and they flew day after day. A month's time had passed by in the blink of an eye. Meanwhile, Duan Ling Tian, who sat cross-legged on the back of the three-eyed flame tiger, finally moved. Duan Ling Tian, who cultivated for an entire month, finally opened his eyes that were dazzling like stars, and he spat out a mouthful of foul air at the same time. Finally, Duan Ling Tian's face bloomed with a brilliant smile that was like a ray of sunlight. Third level of the Void Initiation stage. He'd broken through. As he felt the vast origin energy within his body, and especially when he used his internal vision to see the nascent soul in his dantian that was even more illusory, Duan Ling Tian's mood couldn't help but surge. The increase of strength brought great confidence to Duan Ling Tian. After all, before this, his confidence had been torn to pieces by Han Xuan Nai on more than one occasion. But now, after he'd broken through to the third level of the Void Initiation stage, he'd let it go. Everyone had good fortune that belonged to themselves. Just like Han Xuan Nai, the terrifying cultivation she possessed now was precisely because of her extraordinary background. In the past, I still underestimated the power backing Han Xuan Nai. Duan Ling Tian's gaze descended onto Han Xuan Nai, who sat cultivating nearby with her eyes closed, and he sighed in his heart. At that time, I thought that the power Xuan Nai was from would at most be able to provide various spirit fruits as assistance to her. Now, from the ice concept that Xuan Nai possesses, the power she belongs to possibly even has the conditions to provide concept fragments to her. Concept fragments. In Cloud Continent, it was something that was even more precious than spirit fruits. When martial artists of Cloud Continent were at the Void stage, they would comprehend force and concept. Amongst them, force was the foundation of concept. When one was at the Void Initiation stage, one would comprehend concept. According to the memories of the Rebirth Martial Emperor, Duan Ling Tian knew deeply that the concept of Void Initiation stage martial artist touched upon was only Void Initiation concept, or popularly called elementary concept. Elementary concept was divided into 9 levels. Every advancement of a level provided an extra strength of 1 ancient horned dragon. Since there was elementary concept, then there would naturally be intermediate concept. Intermediate concept was the popular name for Void Interpretation concept. If a 9th level Void Initiation stage martial artist wanted to step into the Void Interpretation stage, then the martial artist had to attain a breakthrough from the 9th level elementary concept and comprehend intermediate concept. If one didn't satisfy this condition, then one would be unable to step into the Void Interpretation stage. Intermediate concept was similar to elementary concept and was divided into 9 levels. First level intermediate concept was comparable to the strength of 20 ancient horned dragons. After that, every increase in level would allow one to experience an increase in the strength of 10 ancient horned dragons. The 9th level intermediate concept was comparable to the strength of 100 ancient horned dragons. If a 9th level Void Interpretation stage martial artist wanted to step into the Void Transformation stage, then it would be same as before. The martial artist would have to attain a breakthrough from the 9th level intermediate concept and comprehend advanced concept. Advanced concept was the popular name for Void Transformation concept. First level advanced concept was comparable to the strength of 200 ancient horned dragons. After that, every increase in level provided an increase of the strength of 100 ancient horned dragons. A 9th level advanced concept was comparable to the strength of 1,000 ancient horned dragons. To a certain extent, the advanced concept had completely transcended above elementary concept and intermediate concept. In the depths of the mind of a martial artist that had comprehended first level advanced concept, a concept fragment would be developed, and it was similar to the inner core of fierce beasts and demon beasts. The concept fragment contained the comprehension the martial artist that had comprehended advanced comprehension possessed towards a certain type of advanced concept. This type of martial artist was usually in existence that was at the void transformation stage, and once they were killed, their opponent wouldn't hold back in the slightest to seize their concept fragment. A concept fragment was the crystallization of the void transformation stage martial artist concept, and if it were to be obtained by another martial artist that comprehended the same concept, the other martial artist would even be able to rely on it to speed up the process of his comprehension towards that concept. Although it wasn't to the extent of allowing another to soar into the sky with a single leap, the speed of cultivating that type of concept would be tremendous. Relying on the senses of my spiritual force, Xuanai's current ice concept ought to be an intermediate concept. Moreover, it's at least at the 7th level or above. Relying on the lifetime worth of experience of the Rebirth Martial Emperor, Duan Tian was vaguely able to deduce the level of the ice concept that Han Nai had mastered. 7th level intermediate concept was equivalent to the strength of 80 ancient horned dragons. Han Nia's strength was already extremely shocking to Duan Tian when just solely based on the strength from her concept and not her cultivation. After he came back to his senses, Duan Tian didn't continue cultivation, but instead grabbed the little gold mouse from beneath his sleeve and held her in his hand. This little fellow is actually cultivating as well. As he looked at the little gold mouse that lay in his hand without moving, Duan Tian shook his head and smiled. To Duan Tian, finding the little gold mouse once again was undoubtedly an extremely happy thing. What caused Duan Tian to be pleasantly surprised was the little gold mouse had broken through to the void initiation stage. And not only that, she even comprehended 2nd level lightning concept. After he lightly put the little gold mouse down, Duan Tian stood up and walked over to stand on the shoulder of the three-eyed flame tiger before looking ahead. Ahead of them were vast lands, and behind this vast land, Duan Tian could vaguely see traces of inconspicuous blue that was extremely far from where he was now. That's the aqua domain, Duan Tian thought in his heart. A few days later, Duan Tian looked at the blue color that came closer and closer, and he finally confirmed it. It's really the aqua domain. The sea in the distance almost joined into one with the azure sky. As the saying goes, both sea and sky are of the same color. It probably speaks of the scene before my eyes. Duan Tian thought to himself. Another day and night passed. At this moment, Duan Tian, who stood on the shoulder of the three-eyed flame tiger, could feel waves of sea breeze blowing over, and contained within it was a trace of the smell of the sea mixed within. It's the first time I'm seeing the sea since I came to this world. Duan Tian sighed in his heart as he gazed at the boundless sea that stretched as far as the eye can see. The entire cloud continent was situated within the boundless aqua domain, and this was something that Duan Tian had found out from the memories of the Rebirth Martial Emperor. Even the Rebirth Martial Emperor at his prime didn't dare explore deep into the boundless aqua domain. No one knew what was at the other side of the aqua domain. Perhaps it was the boundless aqua domain at the other side, or perhaps it was another continent, or perhaps it contained dangers that even Martial Emperor stage experts were unable to withstand. Not long after, Duan Tian saw the jade swords enter into the sky above the aqua domain and enter the aqua domain. That sword monarch's treasure wouldn't be deep in the aqua domain, right? Meanwhile, someone couldn't help but exclaim in a low voice. The jade swords have stopped. Suddenly, someone shouted out in surprise, and it attracted the attention of everyone. Duan Tian looked over and saw that the jade swords that were moving forward all the way had stopped in the distant sky. Meanwhile, the three-eyed flame tiger stopped as well. Instantly, Han Nai and the little gold mouse that were silently cultivating on the back of the three-eyed flame tiger awoke. Squeak, squeak. The little gold mouse blinked her hazy eyes before transforming into a gold light that flashed onto Duan Tian's shoulder, and then she sized up the scene before her with interest. We've arrived. Han Nai arrived by Duan Tian's side as well, and she looked at the jade sword in the sky with Duan Tian. The jade sword stopped there and ceaselessly revolved as strands of a jade-colored glow suffused out. Hiss hiss, meanwhile, The two little pythons drilled out from beneath Han Xuanai's sleeve, and they flicked their tongues and were in high spirits. Suddenly, the jade swords moved. Swish! A jade light flashed by, and the jade sword actually pierced straight through the calm sea. Along with the jade sword entering the sea, the calm surface of the sea roiled, transforming into circle after circle of ripples that undulated out, and under the scorching sun, it seemed to glisten. Big guy, let's go down. Remember to use your origin energy to protect us. Han Xuanai spoke indifferently. The three-eyed flame tiger nodded before plunging down. At the same time, a layer of barrier that was milky white arose on the surface of the three-eyed flame tiger's body, and it was precisely the protection barrier formed from his origin energy. Along with the three-eyed flame tiger's enormous body entering the sea, waves of violent waves shot into the sky, and it was a shocking show. With the three-eyed flame tiger's origin energy barrier protecting them, Duan Ling Tian, Han Xuanai, and Dongming weren't hit by the sea water. The sea was completely separated outside by the origin energy barrier, and it formed two different worlds with the place Duan Ling Tian stood on. Over there. Suddenly, a wave of voices sounded out through the sea water. It was Elder Hu who came with Dongming that noticed the tracks of the jade sword deep within the sea. Instantly, the three-eyed flame tiger and the remaining group of people entered deep into the sea. After a short moment, the group of people had entered deep sea. The deep sea was completely pitch black like the night sky, and some life forms that emitted light could be faintly seen to be living in the surroundings. The milky white barrier that arose on the body of the three-eyed flame tiger was like a big light bulb that illuminated half the deep sea. The remaining group of people opened up an origin energy barrier as well as they chased after the jade sword. This is the deep sea. Duan Ling Tian sized up the deep sea, and he was able to see some fierce beasts that overestimated themselves and pounced over. However, these fierce beasts hadn't even come close when they were easily wiped out by the three-eyed flame tiger and the others. For a time, waves of the small of blood suffused out in the deep sea, whereas the fierce beasts that smelt this blood and came over were even more. They came wave by wave as if there was no end to them. Are there no demon beasts here? As he gazed at the fresh blood that tainted the deep sea's seaweed red, Duan Ling Tian couldn't help but be stunned. Logically speaking, if there were demon beasts here, they would have smelt the smell of blood long ago and followed it to come here. Big brother Ling Tian, there naturally are demon beasts here, but don't forget that demon beasts are existences that possesses the intelligence of humans, and they'd sense this big guy's aura from far away. So how would they dare come over to give away their lives? Han Xuanai shook her head and smiled. Duan Ling Tian came to a sudden understanding, and only now did he recall that the big fellow beneath his feet was a formidable demon beast at the 9th level of the Void initiation stage. An ordinary demon beast wouldn't dare be presumptuous before him. But this is still the outer sea. Although there are many demon beasts, but the strongest are at most at the Void initiation stage. If we continue forward towards the inner sea, there's even the possibility of encountering a Void interpretation stage demon beast. Han Xuanai said. Xuanai, you seem to be familiar with the Aqua Domain. Duan Ling Tian asked curiously. He noticed that when Han Xuanai introduced the Aqua Domain, she spoke with great familiarity. When I was small, my father didn't have time to accompany me, so I basically asked Qing Nu to bring me to the sea to play. Han Xuanai's face revealed a wisp of sadness as she sighed. As time passed, the boundless sea had become a part of my childhood. When she spoke up to hear, Han Xuanai stopped for a moment, and the sadness on her face vanished without a trace. I heard from Qing Nu that in the depths of the inner sea, there even existed some void transformation stage demons. If one were to towards the core area of the inner sea, it was even possible to encounter a demon monarch and demon emperor. Demon monarch? Demon emperor? The corners of Duan Ling Tian's mouth twitched. According to the information he obtained from the memories of the Rebirth Martial Emperor. All those years ago, when the Rebirth Martial Emperor had gone deep into the boundless Aqua Domain, he'd once encountered some demon monarchs and 3 demon emperors. One of those demon emperors even had a strength that was approaching his. It was precisely because of this that the Rebirth Martial Emperor thought of how it was unknown what lay within the boundless sea, and he chose to return to Cloud Continent. Perhaps, if the Rebirth Martial Emperor continued to go deeper into the boundless Aqua domain all those years ago, it was possible for him to encounter demon emperors that were even stronger than him. This was also the thing the Rebirth Martial Emperor was worried about. The Rebirth Martial Emperor's choice at that time was undoubtedly a wise choice, in Duan Ling Tian's opinion. Dong Ming, who stood nearby, was terrified to the point his face went pale when he heard Han Xuanai. It was the first time he felt that the sea was so terrifying as well. He originally, though only the foreign lands possessed existences at the void transformation stage. Unexpectedly, there were even some in the sea. Swish. The jade sword opened a path in the front, and Duan Ling Tian's group followed behind. The deep sea was originally extremely peaceful, yet Duan Ling Tian's group moving through it caused this peace to be broken. All along the way, patches of seaweed that glowed and various types of deep-sea life forms entered into their eyes, causing Duan Ling Tian and the others to be slightly dazzled. It's still going down. Duan Ling Tian's brows raised. He noticed that amongst the 11 people that were outside the three-eyed flame tiger's barrier, the origin energy barrier on the surface of the bodies of some of them, with comparatively weaker cultivations, had started to tremble. The deeper they went down, the greater the pressure that acted upon them. All of you, come in. After another period of time, when he noticed the origin energy barrier on the surface of their bodies was close to the verge of collapse, Duan Ling Tian spoke out to them. When they heard this, it was as if a heavy burden was lifted off their shoulders, and they all passed through the origin energy barrier on the surface of the three-eyed flame tiger's body that was firm like Mount Tai before descending onto the back of the three-eyed flame tiger. Thank you. They looked at Duan Ling Tian and thanked him repeatedly. Duan Ling Tian nodded indifferently and paid no further attention to them. They didn't get angry, as they were already extremely grateful that this young man would able to lend a hand at a time like this. Moreover, when they left this place, they'd probably have to rely on this three-eyed flame tiger, so they had to look for him for help. When they thought up to here, they were completely unable to get angry. We've reached the bottom. Suddenly, the azure-clothed old man that was right at the front stopped. Meanwhile, everyone saw that the jade sword that led them forward had stopped in the sea now as well, and then it ceaselessly revolved, as if it was searching a step further for the location of the sword monarch's treasure. At the bottom of the sea, it was a completely different scene, and it was absolutely beautiful and dazzling to the eyes. Swish. Suddenly, the jade sword moved, and it flashed towards the side. Everywhere the jade sword passed, Duan Ling Tian and the others would chase after, causing half of the bottom of the sea that was pitch black like ink to be bright like the day for a time. In next to no time, a tall mountain at the bottom of the sea appeared before the eyes of Duan Ling Tian and the others. This tall mountain was a few hundred meters tall, whereas a grand door stood at the side of the tall mountain that was before them. The door was extremely ancient, and although it was at the depths of the sea, it didn't suffer from any corrosion. Obviously, it was constructed from extraordinary materials. When the jade sword arrived before the door, it lost its glow and fell down to the ground. We've arrived. The gazes of many people lit up. This is the door to the Sword Immortal's treasure? Duan Ling Tian's heart shook lightly as he looked at the large door before his eyes. I wonder which martial monarch left this treasure? It's actually so extravagant, and even concealed deep at the bottom of the sea. The door to the sword monarch's treasure that was situated at the bottom of the sea caused Duan Ling Tian to be shocked. According to the memories of the Rebirth Martial Emperor, even if it was the Rebirth Martial Emperor himself all those years ago, although he'd played many similar games, yet it wasn't exaggerated and energy-consuming to this extent. The martial monarch that left behind this sword monarch's treasure seems to have gone too far in playing this game. Even though he thought like this in his heart, Duan Ling Tian didn't feel anything was off. Perhaps the martial monarch that left this behind was comparatively more playful. How do we go in? In next to no time, someone noticed this problem. For a time, the gazes of everyone, including Duan Ling Tian, started to go around the door and size it up. They wanted to find the method to open it. After they looked for a long time, they still couldn't wrap their heads around it. According to the rumor, The 9 jade swords are the key to opening the Sword Immortal's treasure. But this door doesn't even have a single keyhole. Someone said with a frown. Looks like we can only force our way in. A blue-clothed middle-aged man took a step forward, and with a raise of his hand, his origin energy skyrocketed. Then his concept followed like a shadow by his origin energy's side to press onto the door. Bang! An enormous bang sounded out, causing the sea water to roll and become extremely muddy. At the same time, it shocked the life forms at the bottom of the sea to the point they fled in all directions, and it was as if they were fleeing for their lives. These life forms at the bottom of the sea couldn't even be called wild animals, and they didn't possess the slightest offensive ability. The blue-clothed middle-aged man's attack caused a great stir, yet the door to the Sword Monarch's treasure didn't budge an inch. What a solid door! The blue-clothed middle-aged man had a shocked expression as he looked at the door. He was in existence at the 7th level of the Void Initiation stage at any rate. But even if he exerted his full strength and concept, this door actually didn't move in the slightest. Humph! Han Xuanai, who stood by Duan Ling Tian's side, snorted lowly, and then she ridiculed. Don't forget that this Sword Monarch's treasure is a treasure left behind by a martial monarch. A martial monarch is an existence that is above the Void transformation stage. Not to mention a Void initiation stage martial artist like you. Even a Void transformation stage martial artist might not be able to cause harm to something a martial monarch left behind. The blue-clothed middle-aged man laughed embarrassedly when he heard Han Xuanai. I was rash. Making a move before young miss is truly slightly displaying my slight skill before an expert. Young miss, do you have a way to open this door of the Sword Monarch's treasure? If we're unable to open the door, that we'd have really come for nothing. A green-clothed old man looked rather respectfully at Han Xuanai as he asked. Instantly, besides Duan Ling Tian, who was still sizing up the door, the others had all shot their gazes at Han Xuanai. Han Xuanai was undoubtedly the strongest existence amongst this group of people. Han Xuanai frowned slightly unhappily from being stared at by so many people. Didn't all of you hear what I just said? This is a treasure left behind by a martial monarch. Not to mention me. Even a Void transformation stage martial artist is unable to do anything, let alone a martial artist like me that hasn't even stepped into the Void transformation stage. Everyone was slightly embarrassed when they heard this. But when they heard the words of the young girl, they finally confirmed a thing, and that was that the young girl wasn't a demon. If she was a demon, it would be impossible for her to not possess a cultivation at the Void transformation stage. Looks like this young girl is probably a disciple from a formidable power in the foreign lands. Her age is so young, yet she's already broken through to the Void interpretation stage. How strong would the power she's from be? The same thought emerged in the hearts of many people, and they felt a wave of shock. This was more shocking than the young girl being a demon. No matter how strong a demon was, it would only be a single existence, an existence at the Void transformation stage, whereas a power that was able to develop a Void interpretation stage expert that was at the age of 15 or 16 had hidden resources and reserves that could be easily imagined. Even if there was a martial monarch existing within that power, they wouldn't be surprised. Not to mention the Darkhan dynasty. Even if it was in the history of the various dynasties, a Void interpretation stage expert at the age of 15 or 16 had never appeared. It was even to the extent that even a Void interpretation stage expert below the age of 30 had never appeared in the various dynasties. Big Brother Ling Tian, have you noticed anything? Xuanai looked at the nearby Duan Ling Tian and asked. The reason she asked was mainly because she saw that Duan Ling Tian's eyes had suddenly lit up briefly. Xuanai. Duan Ling Tian's eyes flashed and stared fixedly at the door to the Sword Monarch's treasure as he spoke slowly. In the rumors, the key to opening this treasure was the 9 jade swords. I think that if we want to open this door, we have to start with the 9 jade swords. Humph. Han Xuanai hadn't even spoken when the azure-clothed old man that stood at the side of the door, the one called Elder who that came with Dong Ming, had already spoken in ridicule. All of us know of what you just said. Not to mention, there isn't even a single keyhole to fit a jade sword on the door. Even if there really are 9 keyholes, the 9 jade swords have already combined into one now. So how do you want to open it? Elder, whose words obtained the approval of many people. Old goat, my big brother Ling Tian is speaking. What are you interrupting for? If you think your life is too long, then this young miss doesn't mind to send you on your way. When she saw Elder Hu ridiculing Duan Ling Tian, Han Xuanai was instantly unhappy, and she flared up. Since she was young, because of her special identity, besides some sisters that were of similar age to her, she didn't have any other friends of the same age. Practically all the other people of the same age as her would treat her with an attitude of looking up to her, and every single one of them would be respectful and reverent. Everyone she saw others having big brothers and big sisters to dote upon them, she would feel a wave of envy in her heart. All of this was until she met Duan Ling Tian. Duan Ling Tian didn't treat her like the people that used to be by her side. He'd completely treated her like a little sister and allowed her to feel the warmth that came from a big brother for the first time. Since that moment, she'd taken Duan Ling Tian to be her big brother, and she enjoyed the loving care of a big brother. Now, someone actually dared to ridicule her big brother? Whoosh. Along with Han Xuanai speaking, strands of coldness arose around her body for no reason. The coldness was icy cold to the extreme as it swept out. For a time, the sea water rolled and it was affected greatly. After a short moment, some of the sea water at the bottom of the sea had even condensed into pieces of ice that fell down to the ground. The amount of ice pierces increased ceaselessly. If this were to continue, it would probably not be long before the seawater around everyone would condense into ice. Elder Hu's face went pale. Only now did he recall how terrifying this yellow-clothed young girl was, and she wasn't someone he could deal with. Now, he wished for nothing more than to slap himself. Why did he have to have nothing better to do and say so much? It was simply like he himself was looking for trouble. Young miss, I think this senior ought to have no ill intentions. Someone looked at Han Xuanai and persuaded in a light voice. Yeah, this senior was thinking for the common benefit of everyone, and that's why he was slightly rash. I hope that young miss can calm your anger. Many people followed suit. In their eyes now, the yellow-clothed young girl before them was a living King Yama, and she controlled their lives. If the young girl were to continue like this, they would undoubtedly be burial objects by the azure-clothed old man's side. That coldness that was icy cold to the extreme was still ceaselessly increasing. It would probably not be long before the surrounding seawater would transform into hard ice, whereas they would be frozen within with a slim chance of survival. Unless they left now, abandoning the Sword Monarch's treasure and abandoning everything that was within it. But how would they be willing to leave like this? They'd anticipated this day for a long time. Now, the people present hated Elder Hu to the extreme. If it wasn't for him, would the young girl become enraged? Brother Ling Tian. Dong Ming looked at Ling Tian with a gaze that was filled with an imploring expression. As far as she was concerned, only Duan Ling Tian was able to calm the young girl's rage now. Forget it, Xuanai. Duan Ling Tian glanced coldly at the azure-clothed old man, and then he lightly smiled as he looked at Han Xuanai. There's no need to get angry with some people. Just take it as if his words are farts. Moreover, if a dog bites us, we can't bite it in return, right? Then what difference would there be between us and a dog? Duan Ling Tian's words caused the gazes of everyone present to become strange. Elder Hu's expression was grim. Duan Ling Tian called him a dog. The corners of Han Xuanai's mouth lightly trembled as a trace of a smile appeared. At the same time, the coldness on her body was restrained, yet her eyes that were filled with rage still stared at Elder Hu. Apologize to big brother Ling Tian, otherwise die. When the people present heard Han Xuanai's angry and overbearing words, they felt a chill run down their spines. They didn't doubt the young girl's words in the slightest. They'd witnessed the young girl's strength with their own two eyes. Elder Hu's expression went gloomy. She wanted him to apologize to a person that had just humiliated him. As an 8th level void initiation stage martial artist, he had his own dignity. But when he felt the killing intent contained in the young girl's eyes, his heart couldn't help but tremble. Especially now when numerous anxious voice transmissions pierced into his ears. Without exception, all these voice transmissions were the people present persuading him to apologize. This time, he'd obviously aroused public anger. In the end, Elder Hu gritted his teeth, and then he took a deep breath before looking at Duan Ling Tian. I'm sorry. Duan Ling Tian nodded indifferently. Xuanai. When the others heaved a sigh of relief, Duan Ling Tian looked at Han Xuanai. Pick up that jade sword and pass it to me. Presently, they were at the bottom of the sea, and Duan Ling Tian knew that it was difficult for the barrier formed by his origin energy to withstand the water pressure. So he had no way of picking up the jade sword that was on the ground before the door by himself. Although she didn't know what Duan Ling Tian wanted to do, Han Xuanai still flew out, and she raised up an origin energy barrier on her body before grabbing the jade sword with a raise of her hand. In the blink of an eye, she'd returned to Duan Ling Tian's side and passed the jade sword to Duan Ling Tian. Big brother Ling Tian, why do you want this jade sword? It's nothing. I just want to try and see if my guess is correct. Duan Ling Tian lightly smiled. For a time, the gazes of everyone descended onto Duan Ling Tian, and they were all curious about what he wanted to do. Squeak, squeak. The little gold mouse stood on Duan Ling Tian's shoulder with her jade green eyes open wide as she sized up the jade sword in Duan Ling Tian's hand with interest. Hiss, hiss. The two little pythons were the same. They'd stuck out their heads from beneath Han Xuanai's sleeve and stared at Duan Ling Tian with interest. On the other hand, Duan Ling Tian, who'd attracted the gazes of everyone present, held the jade sword in his hand. Subsequently, his origin energy fused within it. I hope my guess isn't wrong, Duan Ling Tian thought in his heart. According to Duan Ling Tian's guess, it was extremely likely that the reason the jade sword in his hand was able to transform into 9 swords and combine back into one was because of some sort of miraculous inscription formation inscribed on it. It was precisely because of this that the 9 jade swords were able to combine into one. The Rebirth Martial Emperor had once encountered this type of inscription formation, and although he couldn't be considered to be extensively knowledgeable in it, he knew a certain amount of the principles behind it. Whoosh! Along with Duan Ling Tian's origin energy fusing into it, a milky white flame arose explosively on the surface of the jade sword, and it burned brightly. What does he want to do? This was the thought in the hearts of most people. Big brother Ling Tian. Han Xuanai looked at Duan Ling Tian with her beautiful and watery eyes that contained slight anticipation mixed within. Humph. As for Elder Hu, who stood far away at the side, he snorted to himself as ridicule leaped about in his eyes. Let's see how you lose face. Elder Hu laughed slightly at the misfortune he perceived Duan Ling Tian would encounter. It works. On the other hand, the eyes of Duan Ling Tian, who originally had a serious expression, flashed, and a smile bloomed on his face. Duan Ling Tian's origin energy fused into the jade sword, and sure enough, he noticed the traces of an inscription. Moreover, it wasn't only a single inscription, but 9 that formed into a miraculous inscription formation. It's exactly similar to the inscription formation the Rebirth Martial Emperor was lucky enough to see all those years ago. Duan Ling Tian heaved a sigh of relief. It looked like his guess was correct. Since 9 can unite into 1, then 1 can naturally divide into 9. With a thought in his heart, his origin energy fused into the inscription formation, and it started to disturb the circulation of the 9 inscriptions within. After a short moment, swoosh! A dazzling jade glow suddenly arose on the jade sword in Duan Ling Tian's hand, and it was like the scorching sun as it caused everyone present to unconsciously close their eyes, and even Han Xuanai was no exception. When they returned to their senses, they were completely stunned. Heavens! What have we seen? In the distance, the violet-clothed young man stood there, and he faintly revealed traces of mysteriousness. Of course, this was a thought that suddenly arose in their hearts. Most importantly were the 9 jade swords that were in the violet-clothed young man's hand. The jade sword has divided into 9 again. Everyone looked at each other, and it was slightly difficult for them to believe it. Some people even rubbed their eyes fiercely, and they even thought they were seeing things. Only after they rubbed their eyes and still saw 9 jade swords in Duan Ling Tian's hand did they confirm it. The jade swords had really become 9 once again. Big brother Ling Tian, how did you do it? Han Xuanai's beautiful eyes glowed as she looked at Duan Ling Tian with surprise. Although she had an extraordinary background, it was still the first time she'd seen such a miraculous thing. The 9 jade swords that had united into one had actually split up once more. I don't know as well. I just fused my origin energy into it, and then it divided into 9. The complicatedness of an inscription formation was something an outsider wouldn't know, and only inscription masters understood it. So Duan Ling Tian only shrugged and casually replied without speaking the truth. But Han Xuan I wasn't fooled so easily, and she glanced deeply at Duan Ling Tian before sending a voice transmission. Big brother Ling Tian, once we come out from the Sword Monarch's treasure, you must tell me how you did it. When I picked up the Jade Sword earlier, I fused my origin energy inside to probe it, yet it didn't have the slightest reaction, whereas, in your hand, it directly became 9 Jade Swords, so you've surely done something to it. Han Xuan and I finished speaking in one go. Duan Ling Tian laughed bitterly. This young girl was really intelligent, and she was even able to see through this. All right, after we come out from the Sword Monarch's treasure, I'll tell you in detail. Wait, how do you know I'm able to open the Sword Monarch's treasure? As he finished speaking, Duan Ling Tian shuddered and asked Han Xuanai. After all, the door to the Sword Monarch's treasure was completely flat, and not a single keyhole had appeared. Big brother Ling Tian, I believe that you surely have a way, said Han Xuanai. Duan Ling Tian was slightly speechless. This young girl believes so much in me. But needless to say, the feeling of being adored like this was very satisfying. Especially when it was a monster like Han Xuanai, and it caused Duan Ling Tian to feeling as if he was walking on air. Brother Ling Tian, now that the Jade Sword has split into 9, what will you do? Dong Ming looked at Duan Ling Tian and asked curiously. Presently, Dong Ming's expression contained slight admiration mixed within. Although Duan Ling Tian said that it was extremely simple earlier, he knew clearly in his heart that it was impossible for all this to be as simple as it looked on the surface. Otherwise, why would only Duan Ling Tian have thought of doing this? Since everyone present was in existence at the Void Initiation stage or above, it showed that none of them were stupid people. There's no need for me after this. Duan Ling Tian shook his head. Under the astonished gazes of everyone present, Duan Ling Tian let go of his hand that held onto the 9 Jade Swords. Subsequently, the 9 Jade Swords shot out to flash towards the door of the Sword Monarch's treasure, and they seemed to have transformed into 9 jade green bolts of lightning. Practically at the instant the 9 jade swords flew out, and under the gazes of everyone present, 9 holes that flickered with white light appeared out of thin air on the door. More precisely speaking, it was 9 keyholes. Swish, 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 swish. The 9 jade swords flashed out, flashing through the sea water and emitting a wave of sword howls. In next to no time, the 9 Jade Swords had aimed precisely at the 9 keyholes on the door and fiercely collided onto it. Clang, 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 clang. The 9 Jade Swords had aimed precisely at the 9 keyholes and flawlessly entered into it. Right at this moment, 9 strong lights flashed by, and it caused everyone, including Duan Ling Tian, to be unable to refrain from closing their eyes. And when they opened their eyes once more, they noticed that the 9 Jade Swords had actually already perfectly fused with the door. Rumble. Suddenly, the door started trembling. A wave of rumbling clearly entered into the ears of Duan Ling Tian and the others, and it was like thunder reverberating in their ears. The speed the sound transmitted out underwater wasn't the slightest bit slower to when it transmitted out in air. At the same time, the door moved upwards to gradually vanish before the eyes of Duan Ling Tian and the others. What's that? An origin energy barrier? It actually completely separated to see water outside. Suddenly, someone exclaimed in shock. Meanwhile, the others clearly saw that after the door was opened, a layer of semi-translucent barrier had appeared before the eyes of everyone. Behind the barrier was a completely dusky scene, and it seemed as if extremely dark clouds and mist were pulsating, causing them to be unable to clearly see the situation within. It's an inscription formation again. Duan Ling Tian's pupils constricted as his heart started trembling lightly. Could it be that the martial monarch who left behind the Sword Monarch's treasure was an inscription master? First, it was the miraculous inscription formation that united 9 swords into one and split 1 sword into 9. Now it's an inscription formation that keeps the sea water out. Duan Ling Tian sighed emotionally in his heart. Two types of inscription formations. The formed was something that even the Rebirth martial artist didn't study extensively all those years ago, and the Rebirth martial artist had even taken this to be a regret of his, whereas the latter was more ordinary. So long as Duan Ling Tian's strength was sufficient and the materials were enough, he would be able to set it up. Amazing. It's all thanks to Brother Ling Tian. Yeah, otherwise, we'd probably be denied entrance today. Instantly, the people present looked at Duan Ling Tian as they gasped in admiration and praised him generously. Although Duan Ling Tian had said that splitting the sword into 9 was easy, everyone present was astute. So how could they possibly be unable to discern that those words were just an excuse of Duan Ling Tian's? As far as they were concerned, unless Duan Ling Tian lent a hand, then even if they arrived before the door to the Sword Monarch's treasure, they would probably be unable to find their way in. Humph. Right at this moment, Elder Hu, who stood in the distance, snorted coldly, and then his figure flashed out to be the first to charge towards the barrier formed from the inscription formation and kept the sea water out. Elder Hu's figure easily merged into it. In the blink of an eye, he'd vanished before the eyes of Duan Ling Tian and the others. When she saw this scene, the smile on Han Xuanai's face was restrained as a cold light flickered within her eyes. At the biggest contributor, Big Brother Ling Tian hasn't even entered yet, but this old goat actually dares to enter the Sword Monarch's treasure before him. He better hope that I don't see him again, otherwise I'll surely kill him. As Han Xuanai finished speaking, her tone was filled with ruthlessness. This time, no one felt pity for Elder Hu, as they all felt that Elder Hu had gone slightly too far. Amongst them included Dongming. Dongming looked slightly embarrassedly at Duan Ling Tian. Brother Ling Tian, I'm sorry. Elder Hu's temper is like this. I hope you can forgive him. How about this? Since Elder Hu was the first to enter, then for the sake of fairness, I'll be the last to enter amongst the rest of us. How about it? I advise you to keep your distance from him. If he encounters any treasure within the Sword Monarch's treasure, a person like this would perhaps be the first to kill you and keep all the treasures for himself. Duan Ling Tian had an indifferent expression. As far as he was concerned, this old fellow was going to die sooner or later. He'd endured over and over again simply because he had the intention of making the old man open a path for him. Although that old man was extremely hateful, needless today, his strength was not bad and would provided an extremely great use in the Sword Monarch's treasure. Dongming sighed and didn't say anything further. Brother Ling Tian, young Miss Xuanai, both of you please go ahead. Meanwhile, the others all moved aside and then looked towards Duan Ling Tian and Han Xuanai as they spoke. Xuanai, let's go in. Duan Ling Tian nodded to Xuanai, and then they brought along the little gold mouse and 2 little pythons to fly towards the semi-translucent barrier at the door. During this process, the origin energy on Han Xuanai's body skyrocketed to envelop Duan Ling Tian within it as well, and then she protected Duan Ling Tian to pass through the barrier and enter into the Sword Monarch's treasure. Before Han Xuanai entered the door, she didn't forget to instruct the 3-eyed flame tiger. Big guy, obediently wait here for us to come out. If we don't see you when we come out, then I'll surely freeze you into a popsicle once more. Along with Han Xuanai's figure being concealed behind the barrier, the body of the 3-eyed flame tiger that waited outside trembled for no reason.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe.